Constellation, Last Stand Media's conversational podcast, is brought to you by you. If you want to learn how to support our podcast network, head to patreon.com/laststandmedia.
Step right up, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to Constellation. This is Last Stand Media's conversational podcast. Happy New Year. I'm your third favorite Constellation host, Dagan Dagster Moriarty. I'll be driving the old bus this afternoon, whether you like it or not. Now take notice. Boys and girls, see what we've got here? 4, count them, people. Right? This is how we're going to do it today, my friends. And let me start by introducing my 3 cronies to you here, starting with the top of the LSM food chain. To what do we owe this honor? You spoke and we listened. Your favorite 40-year-old curmudgeon, the Constellation return of Colin Moriarty, everybody. Hey, Col.
Hey, good to be here. Oh, Colin's not on Constellation. Oh, I'm going to cry. I get to listen to Colin for 12 hours a week instead of 16. Oh. Good to be here with you today.
Oh, God. Everybody's going to be so excited. This marks I don't know exactly when the last time you were on the show, because sometimes Chris hosts. I don't think I've missed any of those. I like to watch because Chris is my favorite host too. I'll be honest with you.
Mine too, because it means I don't have to host the show.
Right.
Anyone who hosts the show means he's my favorite host.
But it's been a while.
It definitely has. Last year was crazy, man. I mean, I just had a lot going on. I told the audience late last year that I'll try to be on either Summon Sign or Constellation every week or so. And what I realized was I was planning on doing Constellation next week. And then I was like, well, but that will already give me a gap week because I was on Summon Sign and then this Constellation will publish. I'm like, I really have to do Constellation now in order to stay up with that. And then I'll probably still do it next week as well. Yeah, I was kind of stretched in a few precarious situations, Q4. Let's say a lot going on, especially with Lily Mo. That was keeping us busy with the launch of Tribreaker and stuff, plus the end of the year and all the rest. And I'm sure I can make up a bunch of other excuses too. I'll think of them, but I wasn't around, and I'm sorry about that. But my favorite theory was, it's like, man, money must be tight because they're getting rid of a host. I'm like, it's like the most irrelevant cost in the entire world to get a 4th host on Constellation. It's not it. It's the show is getting too bloated and too long. So I come today. Oh my goodness. By the way, did you hear that there's a new Trump video of him saying that people are coming? He's like, everyone came. I got to send it to you guys. It's so good. It's going to be another banger. It's another classic. Really it's even actually more classic than the last one. Like, I'm going to come one. But I don't come bearing a topic today because I think that I'm just here to observe. I'm like a UN blue hat being inserted into a war, and I'm not really here for anyone. You know, I'm here more for the story, like what's going on, everything on the up and up. But I'm here to observe and to keep it a little tighter because people have to remember Constellation was, when we launched it, every other week for 2 hours. Now it's every week for 4 hours. Something's got to give, you know? So good to be back. I'm happy to be here with you guys. And good to see you, Dag. I haven't seen you in a while. So
it's been too long, my friend. You know what's funny about this, though? It's just striking me as comedy now. You're the only person. At first, when Micah was like, Colin's going to be on, but he's not going to have a topic, I was like, that's a good idea. That's a good compromise between this discussion, this 3 versus 4 discussion we've been having. Why didn't I think of that? But then it occurs to me, you're the only person that could come on this show without a topic that people would even want on the show, I feel like.
Yeah, well, potentially.
You know?
It's a compromise, you know, because people are like, what about, this is the heart of in Solo Constellation. This is the 4 topics. And I'm like, the heart in Solo Constellation is whatever I want it to be. So here we are, and good to be, and good to see all you guys. I just saw Brad a couple times this week. I just saw Dustin potentially even too recently.
Oh, Jesus.
To have seen him again.
Absolutely.
But Dick, I haven't seen you in a while, and it's, we didn't see each other over Christmas. Obviously, you were doing your thing, and I was doing my thing.
Yeah. Respective states thing.
But yeah, nice to see you, and good to be here with everyone. Good to see you guys. It's Friday, and let's get into it, my friend.
I'm excited. Listen, next up, I'm just gonna say it. I almost didn't, but happily not on fire, like seemingly the rest of Southern California. Way too soon, Dagster. Way too soon. Your pal and mine, the always affable, Summon Sign's own and Punching Up's own Brad Ellis. Ladies and gents, what's up, Brad?
Hello, good to be here. Just so everyone knows, many people have asked me, I am like 40, 45, 50 miles away from the fires. I'm completely fine. You don't got to worry about me. No fear of burning down right now.
People don't understand Southern Cal. Well, they don't understand geography generally, let's be honest. But they don't understand, because our mom actually reached out about Chris first and then you.
Yeah.
And then she got to Jaffe, and then somehow she got to Rick. I'm like, Mom, Rick lives in Michigan.
Oh, Jesus. She's getting further and further away with each person.
Now, they're from Southern California, but or at least Rick's wife's from Southern California.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that.
And I think that they were visiting family there. So I think she got confused when she saw all of them or whatever.
Oh.
But I'm like, Mom, Brad lives in Orange County. LA and Orange County aren't the same thing. They're totally, and then Jaffe lives in San Diego. That's even further away. It's going to be fun. If Jaffe's house is also on fire, the PLA are invading Southern California or something, because I don't know what's going on down there.
Yeah, we're done.
No, I was bad with it too. I was just saying to Brad, I'm guilty as charged. Like I was just saying, like I've been taking the last 3 or 4 days to actually learn the geography of Southern California, which I'm particularly guilty because I've lived there in various places along the Pacific, the Southern Pacific coast of California. So I'm as bad as anybody, but I've been trying to figure that out, but I didn't realize you were that far. So and of course I made the mistake of saying you're north, and Brad was like, no, we're south.
No,
idiot.
south.
So
in terms of geography, Dagan, I wonder if this has ever happened to you, people will message me and be like, hey, Dustin, I'm going to Philly. Where should I eat? And I'm like, dude, I've actually never been in downtown Philly, and I've only been on that side of the state in that area maybe 3 or 4 times. Do people ask you when they're going to Pittsburgh? Has that ever happened where it's like...
That's never happened, but people do have this complex of like, it's the same state. And like, do you know how big said state is? I think I've made that mistake with Ohio, just being completely ignorant of that state. Like I'm going to Columbus and like talking to a friend from Cincinnati. He's like, dude, I've never even been there. That type of thing.
Well, Dig, I was going to say, it's like the famous thing that I'm sure, New York City a lot better than I do, but where people are like, oh, I'm going to New York. Where should I eat? And I'm like, I'm from Suffolk County, Long Island. Why are you asking me this? I have no fucking idea where you're supposed to go in New York City. I am not from New York City. I've never claimed to be from New York City. I don't even like New York City.
Yeah, it's like, that's when you just give them an answer.
Yeah, I'm like, I don't know, Sbarro in Times Square.
Yeah. Wendy's.
like Michael Scott.
Yeah.
I love that, because I always feel bad. And then people are like, some people are like, I'm going to Long Island. Where should I eat? And I'm like, still, dude, that's too big of a question.
Yeah, that's huge.
There's millions of us. I don't know. Like, where are you? You're not going to be about. Why would you ever go to where we're from? What are you doing out there? Doesn't make any sense. If you're out there, then ask whoever you're with, because you're there for some reason and they'll help you. Yeah,
it's funny that you say that, Kyle. Helene had a student who just moved to our area from Long Island, and she met the family last night. It was like a curriculum fair at school. And they were from Garden City, which Colin and I know very well. Garden City is
like the capital of Long Island.
It really is. Yep. It's the only town on Long Island with a paid fire department, not a volunteer fire department. A lot of money, big. It's kind of a hub. It's near
where the Islanders
University. Right, exactly. And they didn't know where we were from. She was like, oh, the woman was like, oh, where your husband from? So, Bellport. And she's like, oh, that's on the North Coast out there. Helene's like, no, it's on the South.
Yeah, it's like the exact opposite.
It's like she had no clue.
Yeah.
So yeah,
because they want to think that you're the rich Long Islanders from the North Shore. For people that don't know Long Island, most people have money on Long Island. I guess you kind of have to be able to stay there at this point.
Yeah, right.
But the North Shore of Long Island, Billy Joel sings about it. the North Shore of Long Island are where like all of the rich people are, and he would say how like the South Shore where we're from are where all the hot people. So, and sometimes they'd make him rewrite his songs to make him less Long Island. Like Uptown. I think Uptown Girl was originally supposed to be like North Shore Girl.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So I was born on the North Shore, Port Jeff, but we lived on, so no one, and it's funny, we're really not from Bellport. We're actually from Brookhaven, but you say that and no one knows what the fuck you're talking about. So you say Bellport, which is the school.
Yeah. You got to have a proxy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
absolutely.
Dude, it's totally funny that people are asking Dustin. It's like 400 miles away.
It's happened in
Philadelphia. It's 6 hours.
Yeah, it's happened, I think, twice. So it's not a super common thing, but it has happened. So, but yeah, Philly once a year now for too many games, and that's about it.
Mm-hmm.
And listen, I had that as your intro, Dust. My butt on the other side of Pennsylvania. I was saying Pittsburgh by way of Tokyo because it seems like you're always there.
Hi.
I'm a little jealous. Yeah. Just a little jealous. And if I just summed it up with, if I had a book, he would be okay in it. Because I had nothing else. Dustin Furman, everybody. Let's say an official hello to Dustin. It's good. I haven't been on a show with Dustin in quite some time, so this is exciting for me.
I was going to say, Dagan, you and I haven't been on a show together, I think since July.
Wow. No way.
Before my leave. So it has been.
Shit.
Oh, yeah, that's right. That's why.
Yeah, it has been quite a while. So I'm happy to see you in particular. Brad and Colin, I like these guys, but I've seen them both very recently. So I'm extra excited to see you, Dagan. And then, Colin, in terms of weather around here, nothing abnormal right now. We get a lot of, we get lake effect snow, but it's kind of sporadic. It's not quite like it is in like Buffalo and
of course,
stuff like
Rochester
that.
and stuff like that. Yeah.
So sometimes we do get it, and that was the case last week where it said we had a snow squall that just popped up with this like heavy snow out of nowhere, and I'm like, snow squall. I'm more of a cloud man myself.
Oh,
Cloud Man, Mega Man 7.
No,
can't say squall without me thinking of Final Fantasy.
What is it? What Robot Master doesn't exist? It's like, it's Tire Man.
There isn't a Tire Man, but there is in Mega Man 11. There is Bounce Man, who is named a Rubber Man in Japan, and I think he was supposed to be.
I didn't know that.
Accurate. Yeah. See, just there's so many.
That's the only one they've ever renamed for the West. I wonder why. Rubber Man would have been cool as fuck, though. I think that would have been a dope boss. Actually,
that's so great.
Yeah, I ask only because it's actually unusually cold and snowy here. Like it's probably the coldest. It got to like 15 last night.
Wow,
which is really cold for the north south.
That's colder than here.
Yeah, and I made such a blunder. This is a blunder for anyone that has lived in snowy and snowy conditions. And I've always had most of my life, except for when I lived in California. So I grew up in them. I went to school in Boston, which is a fucking nightmare. Boston's the place where they bring these things that look like dumpsters, and they put them on the corners, and they dump all the snow that they shovel into it so that it melts it and puts it into the sewer because so much snow gets accumulated that there's nowhere to put it.
I never knew that.
Yeah, it's fucking crazy. Huh. I don't miss that. And that was cold, and it gets even worse than that. I grew up in Maine for a few years, in New Hampshire. It's horrible. But I don't have it in me anymore. And the instincts are gone. And I made a blunder where I went out and shoveled. I like to shovel things. We don't really go anywhere or do anything, but just so people don't if a delivery person falls or a person's like walking their dog on the sidewalk. I just get my sidewalk and like my driveway. And our backyard doesn't get any sun really in the winter. And we have the pool and then like the concrete around the pool and like a deck and all this kind of stuff. So I just made a little path for Micah for the dogs. That's all she asked me to do. And I'm like, I'll get the rest of it later. And I was like, that was so stupid because it was still snowing at the time. And still to this right now, it hasn't snowed in 4 days. It's just like 2 inches of just permanent ice, like all in my backyard. And then it's supposed to snow again tonight. So I made the great blunder of letting it snow on top of ice. And now it's just going to be a whole thing. I don't have it. I don't have the instincts anymore, to be in a snowy climb.
Yeah, you fucked up.
Yeah. So, and the dogs are confused. They're just peeing wherever they want to pee outside now. And it's like, they don't know where to go. They can't get their little feet, their little paws going. There's a lot of problems about, and by the way, 2 other things. It snowed 2 or 3 inches. So not a lot. I mean, it's like, and our sister Allie and I were texting. We both lived in Maine with my mom for a little while together. And she was like, dude, this is so funny because like this was on Sunday night. She's like, remember when we lived in Maine and it would have to snow like a foot? It literally would have to snow like more than a foot for them to be like, all right, 2 hour delay.
Wow.
And this they would be like, they canceled school, and then they canceled school until Thursday.
Wow.
Damn.
It's like, there's nothing on the fucking roads, dude. Like, what do you guys? And then we realized that there's that something even crazier third world happened here in the lower Virginia, Richmond area, is that the Richmond water treatment plant, like Fukushima, got flooded. The generators didn't work. And so everyone's on a boil water advisory.
No way.
Not in my county.
Okay.
Oh,
I was going to ask.
No. Chesterfield? Fuck around. Richmond though. And so that's also cool. So these kids like can't go to school because we have like these third world fucking generators now, unable, like the water just kept going through even though it wasn't getting treated.
Wow. Holy shit. Yeah, that's not good.
Love it. Shout out to Virginia.
Wow, that's not a good thing. You know what they did in my school district, guys? And no one's up in arms about this, which is so mysterious. They just got rid of snow days altogether. So what they did was they said, "Oh, we came through COVID great with remote learning. What we're going to do is if we have you guys have one snow day, you have one freebie. The rest, if it's a snow day, you're logging on and going to school from online, from your dining room." And no one cares. And I'm so up in arms for the kids because the thing of a snow day was always like such a treat.
Oh, definitely.
And now it's done. And we had our snow day, so that's over. So now every consecutive snow day now for the rest of the year, they'll have to log on, and the teachers have to log on as well for a limited amount of time.
Dude, I lived for the snow day.
The snow day was everything.
You're watching News 12 Long Island. You're looking at like the fucking Doppler radar. You're studying the calendar and the clock. You're figuring out when things are going to hit, and trying to be like, this is going to happen on Wednesday morning. Dude. And then you wake up Wednesday morning, you watch News 12 and you wait for your school to come across the bottom. You guys remember that?
Hell yeah.
I guess you never really had to.
Brad doesn't know.
Brad, the way that they would communicate that school was closed in snowy climes was you would watch like local news and it would just scroll on the bottom and on the Chiron, like all the schools in alphabetical order. And so we went to South Country. So it would go like Sachem. And then you would wait, and then sometimes it wouldn't come, and it would go to like the T and be like, God fucking damn it! And then you'd wait for it to come back around, hoping that it was added. And it was so annoying to see who like got to stay home, who got the 2 hour delay, which was the famous kind of thing. Dude, I loved it in high school, especially. It was like it was video game time. That was it.
Yeah. I remember once getting up to get ready for school. I'm in the bathroom, fully disrobed at this point, and I turned on the shower, and my mom knocked, and she's like, "Oh, you have a snow day," and I didn't get in the shower. I literally turned it off, put my pajamas back on, went immediately back to bed. I was like, no, we're not doing that. I wasn't past the point of no return. So, but yeah, snow days. A lot of times here, one of the major problems we would have is that because the buses run on diesel, that if it got too cold, they won't start. So there was one year, I think we had 3 or 4 days off because it was -10 or 15 or something. And they're like, oh, the buses literally don't work. So you have 4 days off in a row. It was amazing.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Dude, when I went to private school in New Hampshire, that was from my middle school years. That was in Dover, New Hampshire. Wonderful town. They had their own high school, Dover High School. And they would get closed and we would never get closed because we didn't have a bus system. Like our parents would drop us off at the school and all of the rest. And some people took the Dover High School bus or the Dover Middle School bus and those wouldn't be going, but your parents would still have to bring you to school and it would be so annoying. So you'd be like in your little private Catholic school and the entire town would be dead. But they're like, no snow days for you guys today.
That's just
and then you'd go home to your neighborhood where all of your friends and the people you knew went to Dover High School or Dover Middle School, and they would all been fucking happy as pigs and shit.
Yeah, they were watching game shows all day.
Yeah, exactly. That's the other thing is daytime TV. See, daytime TV sucks now. I tune in every once in a while, and it's not the same. But daytime TV was a special little nugget of something, wasn't it? Like 1995, Ricky Lake, Sally Jesse Raphael.
Yes.
Jenny Jones.
The talk show. Richard Bay.
Of course, so Richard Bay.
So good.
I loved Richard Bay, dude.
Did he die?
I was gonna say, I think he died. Isn't he also from Long Island, or am I making that up?
I think he's from Queens.
Queens. Okay.
I think
we can't claim him.
Let's claim him anyway.
These guys have no idea what the fuck we're talking. They have no idea who Jenny Jones
I
or
knew
Richard
a
Bay
lot
is.
of those people you were saying.
Oh, okay, good.
Oh, that's good.
That's good.
Yeah,
Jenny Jones was dope.
I remember daytime TV and stuff like that.
You're older. You're not as young as Dustin is.
No. Yeah, I remember a lot of that stuff.
Dustin, do you know who Sally Jesse Raphael is?
No.
She had these iconic red framed glasses.
Oh, yeah.
That was her thing.
That look.
Yeah.
So iconic.
And she was like a talk. There were 17 talk shows that all did the same exact thing, and they were all popular. Everyone
literally.
Yeah.
Geraldo.
Jerry Springer, of course.
Springer.
Yes, I mean Springer, of course. Yeah,
Love that dude.
Richard Bay was more in the vein of Springer.
Yeah.
Jenny Jones was more in the vein of Maury.
Forgot about
Maury.
her. Yes.
Yes, I remember Maury.
Oh, dude, this is a topic.
Mm-hmm.
This is a
yeah.
topic.
We should make note of this. I won't, and I'm going to forget it entirely that we ever talked about it
I'll
at
write
all.
it down. All right.
In the 90s.
And even before that, like you said, Geraldo, Donahue.
Oh.
Dude, there are sick. I didn't know this. I got to say until I was an adult, because I grew up with Donahue kind of doing like kind of a more generic, like our mom liked Donahue, but he would like, interview like, whatever he was doing, but it wasn't like that crazy, that deep, that intellectual. But there are interviews of him doing a show in the late 70s and early 80s where he's interviewing like Ayn Rand.
Oh,
and
man.
like all these and I'm like, dude, this is awesome. And then he ended his career, remember, on MSNBC.
I don't remember that.
And he got kicked off because he was against the Iraq War.
Oh, is that right? That was the end of him?
Yep.
The early 90s?
It ended up that he was like a real bleeding heart. Yeah.
Wow. Holy shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool.
And then Ricky Lake, remember, she was like really heavy, and then she like lost a shit ton of weight, and she had this talk show, and she was hot shit for a minute.
Ricky Lake.
Yeah. I remember Ricky Lake. Yeah.
Yeah.
She had that classic early 90s like pixie haircut.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, she was cute.
Yeah, she was.
Donahue had the gray,
he was cute too.
Helmet hair. He had like the Playmobil hair.
Yeah, Donahue looked very put together.
Yeah.
Puff like a big head of hair.
Yeah. The gray parted to the side. Just looked like, perfectly coiffed. Very 80s, right?
Then Geraldo, remember what was the big thing with Geraldo? I was a little kid, but I remember like people talking about it.
Getting his nose broken.
Yeah. Well, but didn't he open like there was this big thing where he was going to open a vault?
Like Al Capone's
vault, and then it was just like empty. But it was like a live TV show thing. It was like a live thing, and then they opened it, and there's just nothing in it.
I don't remember that.
You got to look that up because it's definitely like maybe the most iconic Geraldo moment. And of course, we have family lore about Geraldo, which is that our aunts and our mom went to see him in like the late 80s.
I forgot.
And
this.
Aunt Joni held Geraldo's microphone during a commercial break. That's the big.
Whoa.
That's the big family lore. That story's been
he's
told.
He's still popping up.
Yeah,
right?
dude, he's on Fox.
He's on Fox.
He's been on Fox for years,
okay.
many years. Yeah.
Colin, is he the clip from the kind of funny Colin and Greg Live that you would start with, where he's like, you have to understand, Geraldo.
Yeah, that's him.
Yeah,
I'm Geraldo.
Yeah. I remember that from that show.
He rules. He's got that great mustache. Like he's always just had the 80s, your neighbor's, dad's mustache, but he's had that the entire time, because our dad never rocked a mustache, at least in my life.
Never.
And it was weird.
Yeah, it was like he was like a Yankee or something. Like he was under Steinbrenner's Yankee. Just like, Dad,
they don't get the reference. They don't understand the reference at all. You can't have facial hair if you're on the Yankees.
What kind of... Think about it, though. This doesn't make any sense. What firefighter in the 80s didn't have a mustache?
I know, it's weird.
It's like a prerequisite.
It's weird. Get some of those little hairs singed perhaps in a fire every now and again.
Could he not grow like a big beard or anything like that, or a thick mustache?
No, he could. He just didn't. Like my dad,
Never.
I'm jealous because I haven't shaved my beard off since I was 29, so it's been like 11 years. But I shave it down sometimes. But my dad, I used to love when my dad would pick me up when I was a little kid and then rub my face against his face because it would hurt.
Oh, it was like a
and like my face is nothing like if I shave down and then let it grow to a 5, it's like nothing like that. Nothing. Like I don't know what that's all about. So he could definitely do it, but he would shave. He's one of those guys that shaves every day, I think.
Yeah.
Dude, that's kind of sick though. Your dad was just like, nah, fuck it. Not doing a mustache.
Clean cut.
My dad is interesting with the We're already like making fun of
mustache
Dad.
and the Daisy Dukes might have been too much.
Dude,
actually.
there's so many
Daisy
stories about our
Dukes?
dad that he's a crazy person. Really.
Oh, Brad never heard about the Daisy.
Oh yeah,
Duke.
my
Your
dad.
wore Daisy Dukes. Oh
Yeah, my dad
Oh,
wears
yeah.
Daisy Dukes specifically to work in the yard.
no way. Crazy.
Yeah, so like our dad. Have you met our dad? I guess
no.
I guess
Wait,
you. I don't.
no. Maybe
Maybe in the
He
New
was
York
in
show?
New York.
Yeah, he was
Yeah,
there.
in
Yeah,
New
yeah.
York. Yeah, so you probably met him in passing.
Yeah.
He's 6'3". I mean, he's 75 now or 74, so he's older, but you wouldn't really know that, I guess.
Mhm.
And he was like this jacked man's man firefighter, and I just think that gave him permission to do whatever he wanted to do.
Yeah.
And one of the things that he would want to do is just wear cut jeans that literally were like 4 inches long and work in the yard, like with no sense of irony, mowing the lawn and work boots.
Wow. What a combo.
Bold.
And
Bold
sometimes like a
style.
cut off shirt almost even,
Yeah,
like
half shirt.
Yeah.
Damn.
Like
And it's
full
like- I'm like-
on village people shit. Like
Yeah.
if he had the mustache and the construction helmet, it would have been like it was just like who's gonna make fun of him? You know what I mean? I'm gonna wait,
Yeah.
but it's not like cut off. I want to just make sure I'm painting the right picture
Mhm.
here. Not cut off jean shorts, like full on like booty short, like half his ass was hanging out the bottom of it, like Daisy Dukes. Right? He could have just made like
Right.
shorts out of jeans and been a little
Damn.
more modest about it. But they were pretty
Dude.
sexy.
That's pretty sick.
Yeah, dude.
It was
Yeah,
just
dude.
so normal to me too, because I was a little kid and I'm like, I don't really understand what's so funny about this. Until I got older, because that was all I knew. Was
Yeah, I was old enough to be embarrassed of it.
That's
It's- yeah.
it's similar to my dad. So I've mentioned on the show before that my dad was like a local legend of hardcore bands in the Butler area. But what I didn't know what was unique at the time is that he was known for, before the show would start, he would completely almost take off all of his clothes except a pair of smiley face Joe Boxer boxers.
Okay.
And then he
How
would play
neat.
shows in the just boxers.
Whoa.
And I was like, I thought that I didn't think it was normal, but I didn't really think much of it when I was a kid. But he was like known as the practically naked drummer.
That's
of
very
Butler.
That's
Love
very it's interesting. The drummer that I grew up idolizing a few drummers, but one of the drummers I really loved was Adrian Young, who's No Doubt's drummer. And he plays the same way, where he basically just wears like a thong.
A thong.
No way.
Yeah,
That's
What?
bold.
Like and often, yeah, and just like all sorts of crazy. And I love that. I would play shows without a shirt on. I played
Yeah.
every show I ever played without a shirt on.
yeah, that's a drummer move, I
Yeah.
feel like.
But
Love
I
that.
did that mostly because I felt like I was getting. You play for half an hour or so, and you start getting it, like you start getting rubbing on your shirts, and it's just like it's uncomfortable. Because I remember our dad went and saw us once, and he's like, "You want to show off your tattoos or something?" I'm like, "No, I'm really just trying to like." I wanted to look a little hot, I guess. I was like 18, 19 years old, but
Yeah, dude.
But I also would play without a shirt. But now I don't. One thing I do is if I play often, I play drums with no shoes, which is a very common thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
But
The-
yeah, that's interesting about your dad.
The thing I wonder now that I'm
Yeah.
thinking about it is that did he wear like tighty whities under the boxers? Or is it where certain people at certain angles getting a full view?
Oh,
They got
Is
the
there any
full
video? I mean, go to the video. Go to the
Well,
cassette.
there is videos. I'm just going to text him real quick.
Let's go to. I'm gonna go with no.
Yeah. I'm going to go with no.
I know Travis a little bit. Shout out Travis, by the way. He's an awesome dude. I'm going with no.
Yeah.
He
big
was
no
letting it
there.
all hang
That
out for
poor
sure.
throne that he was sitting on.
Yeah.
Mhm.
That poor throne.
What's so cool about Dustin's parents is when they were young. So like
Yeah.
he was when Dustin was having these memories, Travis was young, like a young man.
I'm closer in age to Dustin's parents than I am to Dustin.
Is that crazy?
Yeah. That sounds about right.
Love
Yeah.
that.
Let's see. I texted him. He is a normal person working right now.
Oh, yeah.
So we'll see if he gets. Maybe at some point in the show, I'll give you guys a little update. Was my dad exposing himself to people
Play along
at the
home.
shows? Was he not? We'll find out.
Going with he was.
Okay.
Me too.
100%.
Yeah.
I
100%.
put good money on that. I won't. but
Oh,
I
he's
would.
read it. He's read it.
Oh,
Oh, he has you on read?
He has me on read.
You're like his ex-girlfriend or something. It's like what?
He just read it. So okay.
imminent.
The answer is sometimes, mostly not.
Yeah, we knew it.
Nice.
Mm,
That's very on brand, I feel like, for your dad.
tasty.
Those hardcore kids were crazy, man.
Sure. Yeah, Long Island is a major hardcore hub. So we are simpatico with that.
Yeah. I mean, I'm from Orange County. We had a huge scene down here too.
That's the other.
You have a great music scene in Orange County.
Mm-hmm.
Always.
Thrice from
Thrice. Yeah, they're
Orange
from
County.
my town, like city, Irvine.
Nice.
Yeah, they played at my high school and stuff, like the church next to my high school and stuff too.
That's so cool.
That's awesome.
I mean, the big one I'm thinking of course, is Alien Ant Farm of Riverside. But
they're from Riverside. I didn't know that.
I don't think I knew that.
I love Alien Ant
Old
Farm.
Riverside.
Let me say something real serious about Alien Ant Farm. That first Alien Ant Farm record, really the first two, but the first one, it's so fucking good.
I'm too old. It's
so good. So good. Yeah. People don't take them seriously.
I don't know much about them. I know that song Movies. That was
that's from that record. That's their first single. Yeah.
Yeah, I couldn't even name a song. I don't even know who.
Well, they're best known for Smooth Criminal, the Smooth Criminal cover,
sure.
Which was, I think, a big mistake in hindsight.
Really?
For them? Yeah, in the sense that, like, that's what they're known. You don't want to be known for a cover, do you? I mean,
are you saying now in retrospect?
Yeah, in retrospect, I mean, that is by far their most famous song.
I mean, I think that's what broke them through, though. I don't know if they would have got picked up without that.
They would have never. Movies was their first single. And I remember seeing it on MTV2 or whatever, but then they released that and then they became big.
Then they caught fire, yeah.
Often happens. So yeah, they would have released that record and probably not gotten any traction. But whatever.
But I know what you're saying, yeah.
It's just, I'm bummed for them because I've seen them a few times too, and I think they're great. They're like, I think the name of the band is dope, first of all, and they're just really technical. The very technical band. It's very, very good. I think they're underrated. Go listen to that first record. You have any fucking courage.
So I think of a band like that, especially now with the popularity and the strength of nostalgia, right? Even if they weren't together now, wouldn't you just get back together and cash in on that?
Definitely. That's what's happening a lot, I think.
You know?
There's all of these 80s, not so much 80s anymore. That was a big thing for a while, but 90s tours now, where these bands are all getting back together, and they should. I mean, I think that there are, I think Limp Bizkit's a great example of a band that kind of has just stayed together, and they tour and they play like massive festivals, but not.
They never stopped.
They stopped for a little bit. They lost their guitarist for a little while back in the day, and then he came back, and then they had some interstitials. Like there were no records from 2005 to 2009. There was no records from 2009 for almost a decade after that, but they were still touring.
Okay, so they were still playing together.
They're kind of boring though, in the sense that they play like just their singles and stuff, but that's fine.
Yeah, the playbook now for a lot of bands is that you re-record your most popular album, so then you can release it and have all the rights to it and make all the money with a vinyl re-release. Then do the whatever anniversary tour, try to play a few new songs that no one cares about, and then just disappear again for another 10 years, and then maybe do it again.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know what this is making me think of, you guys? You three that I'm looking at, along with Chris, I would say in particular, of LSM. You guys stop podcasting tomorrow for like, I won't even say 10 years, it's 5 years. And then come back, right? Cash in on the power of nostalgia, right? You guys are like you guys are popular enough. You got the following, right? You got the street cred. I don't know. Something to think about, guys.
I don't think anyone besides Colin could maybe do that.
Yeah. Come on.
Well, I don't think I think if I retire, I'm never coming back ever. You'll never see me ever again. Just let you know.
That
is true. Yeah, dude, it's so interesting to think about. Well, anyway, yeah, I've gotten to see weird bands that I missed the first time around, which is cool, because of that. Sometimes they're not with their original lineups. It does become a Ship of Theseus situation at some point with some of these bands. Did you guys see that Soundgarden is playing with like a female like singer, and it sucks?
No.
Really? I saw a clip of that.
It's so bad.
I think I've ever heard of that. Switching like from male to female.
Well, Linkin Park just did that, and I think that sucks too.
Wait,
so to be perfectly honest, yeah, Linkin Park came back with a woman as Chester.
I didn't know that either.
Yeah,
wow. I think she's pretty good. Not as good.
Old.
Pretty good.
I'm surprised by this because I am, again, only a fan of those first two Linkin Park records, and I really don't know anything after that. But I love those records. Those Hybrid Theory came out when I was in high school. Everyone owned that record.
Mm-hmm.
And I only know those songs. When I heard them playing those songs, I'm like, in my opinion, this sucks. Like, you shouldn't even play this shit. I know you have a bunch of other records, like play your other stuff, because that's my, but I feel like with her, I'm in the minority, because when I go and read the comments on these videos or whatever, some people hate it, but it seems like most people like it. And I'm like, I don't know, man. I find it very strange that they did that. You know, they changed the whole register of the songs.
That I don't like.
That's a big problem. I love
like that's weird. That's what you do when you have to adjust as a band and you have to like change the way you sing things. But like you don't do it because you brought someone new in, because you could find someone that sounds like him. That's why. That's why it's weird. You know?
You think it's like a gimmick, or it's just
I mean, I think they were ready to come back. I think some of them weren't into it. Right, the drummer quit. I think. And so I don't think everyone's like on board, and I don't think Chester's family is into it, as far as I understand. But he's not an original member. Right. And I do think that that's what people have to remember, is like they all were doing their thing before he ever joined the band, and it's kind of unfair for them to always sit out now. You know.
Yeah.
But they could have done something new. That's kind of like my opinion. Play some of the covers, definitely. But like, and they did make a new record, but it's not Linkin Park. That's my opinion. Yeah. But clearly there's a difference of opinion here, you know. You like, so like if you hear a song like Runaway or One Step Closer or Don't Stay, like you're like, no, this is good.
When you're saying when
she sings them?
Is it good? I think it's fine. I don't think that it's any kind of replacement. If they went and re-recorded those songs with her, I think that would be weird. But in a live setting, it doesn't bother me. I thought she sounded fine. I don't like the key change, but I think that the new album with her, it sounds more like Linkin Park than the last few albums they did with Chester. So I've listened to it. I've actually listened to it quite a bit. I think it's pretty good. I don't think it's the best thing ever, but for live stuff, I don't know. I don't have that level of reverence, I guess, where it's like, oh no, now that Chester's not here anymore, we can't play those songs. And I think that the fact that it is a woman is a little helpful in that. I think it was Mike Shinoda said in an interview, he's like, when we were thinking about getting back together and I was hearing, he heard a band do a cover of a Linkin Park song, and it was weird to him to hear a man try to sound like Chester, like it was like a karaoke version or something.
Yeah.
So he's like, if we're gonna do it, it has to be different.
Yeah, I can see both philosophies, because I think of Journey, which has had 3 singers now technically, but I mean really 2 singers in a major way, and you know, the new singer sounds like Steve. And he's really not the new singer. He's been with them for like 15 or 16 years at this point.
Right.
And I saw them with him, and he's great. But that, if you close your eyes, it's like, oh, that's Steve Perry.
It sounds
and
like
that is one direction to go in. But yeah, I totally understand the other direction. To me, I'm just like, just make new stuff.
A new band, yeah.
Because I do think it's unfortunate where these bands have to shut down. But sometimes they kind of, first of all, I think it depends on who's the songwriter, the primary songwriter, which Chester, I don't think, was the primary songwriter. So I think that's one way to get around it. It's the reason why Stone Temple Pilots still tried to play and still do sometimes play with different singers, including Chester. And you know, Alice in Chains is a great example where like Lane Staley died, but he wasn't the songwriter, so they felt comfortable immediately getting back, and they've been playing with someone else for 25 years. But to me, I just think it's like, it's about the magic of the original group. I always hate when it's one of the reasons why I stopped listening to Breaking Benjamin. The newer stuff is like, eventually they all left and it's just him and like a new band. And I'm like, yeah, that's cool. And they're great. And the songs are cool, but there's a little bit of the magic gone.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Those original threads, they're so few. Yeah.
Over break, right before break, I was trying to listen to every Iron Maiden album front to back, because I've never done that.
That's work.
And there's an era in the 90s where their lead singer, Bruce Dickinson, left the band and they got a new singer, Blaze Bayley. Do you know of these albums, Dagan?
No.
Dude, they are not good. But
do they play anything from them when they play live?
That was the main problem, is that he has a good voice. But there's clips of him trying to sing like "Hallowed Be Thy Name," and it's like clearly the end of the show, and he can't do it.
Yeah,
he's totally shot, and I feel bad for him, because it's like, dude, you were selected to be the new singer, and then they I don't know, maybe he shouldn't have said yes, but it's like they never should have had him sing those songs that were clearly not in his range. Just start new. But it all worked out because
what I'm wondering is today, do they play any of those songs?
Yes, and they are fucking awesome now. Like there's a few that they'll do live with Bruce specifically that are good. It's like one of those things that in hindsight, you listen to those albums, they're like, these aren't bad albums really. But when you think about what came before, it's like, ugh.
I asked that because I know some bands are weird about like the 1 or 2 records where like there's different personnel on them.
Right.
Like Limp Bizkit did a record with a different guitarist and they don't really super acknowledge that record live. And I know, I mean, most famously, and it's what bothers me and why I asked is Red Hot Chili Peppers like basically pretend that 1 Hot Minute doesn't exist. Like the record 1 Hot Minute. Yeah. Because it wasn't their original lineup. And they don't play shit from it, including songs like Aeroplane and things. And it's like, what, like, come on, guys, these are great songs. What are you doing? But they just don't do it. You know?
They don't need to.
So I always wondered, like, how I also love where you see bands a bunch. You've seen like specific bands a lot of times, like I have, and I love following the set lists and all of that. Mm-hmm. And I always, when I look at historical set lists and what they're playing over different things and all the songs they've practiced for the specific tour and all the rest, and I'm fascinated by trying to figure out what songs they don't want to play. Mm-hmm. Like, because there are definitely songs they don't like. You know, and they just don't ever pop up, or they pop up only at like 311 Day or something. And then I'm like, oh, that's so interesting, you know? So I love this kind of stuff anyway.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's nice that, like, I know what like Dustin does with Iron Maiden. He's pretty young to be a Maiden fan, but it's nice when a band stays touring and active because then current generations can appreciate it. Mm-hmm. Yeah. You know, so that's the nice perk.
Thing about Maiden too, they do not change. They have never, as far as I know, they do not change the key of any of their songs. He's still singing it. His voice is not quite as strong, but it's not one of those like you feel bad, like maybe you shouldn't be doing this. It's like, no, it's still great. It's not maybe quite the strength before, but it still rules. So good for them. I think he said in an interview this, like, if there ever gets to a point that I can't sing these songs, then we're just gonna wrap it up. Like it's
that's the way, dude.
Yeah,
you know. Especially for a band like that is so prolific like them, you know, where it's like, you don't need the money. Like you're doing it for the love, which is great, but you don't have to do it. No one needs it. You have generational wealth. You can go away and keep your reputation intact, you know?
Right.
I hate to be, they're not the same, but in some way, who I'm going to talk about is even more iconic in some way in American music, which is like, we were circulating those Frankie Valli videos, you know?
And those are so awesome.
And it's like, dude, like I'm always going to think about that for the rest of my life.
No, I will too.
Because I think I used to think about Frankie Valli, like they used to do like before music videos, but like those cool music video style things, and they're doing like Walk Like a Man or whatever, and they're all on the balcony and they're all looking fucking cool as shit and whatever, and that's like my vision of him. And now like I have this vision of him having
he's like
should have hung it up,
looking like Joe Biden walking out.
Biden.
Yeah. It is sad. I prefer to remember him. You know when he should have called it? The curtain call should have been playing Rusty in The Sopranos. I thought he was really good in that part. Remember he played like the New York gang? He wasn't in it that long.
Right.
But he played one of like the Lupertazzi's like crime bosses before he got whacked. And he was good in that role. That would have been a great swan song and then just go out.
I never connected the dots on that.
That's right.
Yeah, that's him.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Rusty Melio.
Dig, I was telling Dustin on Sacred that Micah has expressed openness to watching The Sopranos.
Oh, she's got to watch.
And I was saying, you know, The Last of Us comes back in April, so I'll get Max.
That's right.
And then maybe we'll pounce on that.
Oh, then you could do it. Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm. If we want to do we don't want to sign up and make content for something, but maybe once at the end, after you guys watch it all, Sopranos episode of something.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
But you guys, have you done it on Knockback?
Yeah, we did, but it was one of the first episodes, and it was not in the current format. If we did it the way we ended up doing shows later, we would have done it season by season.
Yeah, 100%.
So it's something that we should do. You know?
It's tempting. It's not tempting because it would be fun. At the same time, just sometimes you just want to enjoy something.
Yeah, totally. I mean, it could be like supplemental Knockback. I want to bring Knockback back this year a few times, and it could be one of those episodes that we can bring people on.
Yeah, that'll be really fun.
All right.
Listen,
well, for having no topic, that was 45 minutes. So
there you go.
That's that Colin Moriarty energy, though. I like it.
I'm sorry. I hijacked the show.
All right. So listen, I'm going to call out the order. I think I like it starting today, looking at the topics we have, I like starting with Dustin, and then we'll jump to Brad, and I'll bring up the rear today.
Cool.
Like I normally do, not always, but sometimes. So Dust, take it away, man. I like your topic for starting things off.
So if you listened to Sacred this past week, maybe you did, maybe you didn't, but I was talking about how over break, Holly and I went full goblin mode and did nothing for 3 days. I played Final Fantasy 14 online. She played Baldur's Gate 3. I think
Tell me about the setup. Tell me about the setup.
Oh, the setup. Okay.
Yeah, how do you guys play together?
Well, in this current configuration, I'm on the couch with the controller. I'm playing Final Fantasy 14 mostly on PlayStation 5. And so we have like the nice recliner couch. I'm on the left side, Holly on the right side. She has a Razer gaming laptop that's, 4 years old now at this point. And I just got her like one of those couch cushions for a laptop because she was just using my old high school yearbook in order to not like burn her lap while playing. So yeah, she's playing on the laptop. I'm just kind of dude. The thing about the couch that has the recliners in it, it's great. We each kind of have our own side. But I kind of miss. We don't really sit beside each other anymore now. When we had the normal couch, we would sit right beside each other, snuggle up a little bit. There has to be a little more active, to do that. Someone has to sacrifice not having the recliner unless you want to share one. So yeah, that's the setup. And so for 3 days, that's all we did. Didn't leave the house. I showered in there maybe once or twice. We'll see. I don't know. Maybe got takeout once or twice. I don't know. Yeah, it was goblin mode, dude. Yeah, fully.
Yeah.
And I was thinking about like, man, I haven't done something like that where I just fully, just binged on a video game. And what's interesting too is that shortly after, I was also talking about this on Sacred, so sorry for those listeners, but for some reason, I thought the new season of Severance came out today on the day of recording, which is the 10th of January. It's not today. It's next week. But leading up earlier this week, I thought, man, I got to rewatch the first season as quick as possible because I need it to be fresh. I care that much about this show. So across 2 days, which is not incredibly long. I think it's 9 episodes that some of them are 40 minutes. So it wasn't an incredible amount, but I blitzed through this show across like 2 or 3 sittings. And I was thinking about it. I was like, man, it feels abnormal for me to do this, but this is kind of what people do now is since the advent of Netflix, the ads and their thing around it was like all the episodes available now. You can just watch it all the way through. And I've had, conversations on various shows about how I like it and I don't like it at the same time. It was really nice for my rewatch, but I'm actually really excited that the new season of Severance is coming out week by week. And it's been one of my most controversial takes where I'm against the whole season dropping at once because I love the engaging in the conversation around the show, whether sometimes that's online, but primarily actually it's with Holly where we like to watch an episode and then as we go out throughout the week, we'll be like, do you remember this? What if it was actually this? Or what if this character was going to do this or something? And so we kind of have this build up and this conversation around it before the next episode drops. And I absolutely love that about it. And when you binge a show, it's not that you don't have a conversation afterwards. We watched all of Squid Game 2 over break also. And so we had a lot of conversations afterwards about it and a few in between because we didn't watch it in one sitting or something. But I was thinking, I'm like, man, you kind of lose some of that when it's all at once. So my question for you guys, it doesn't have to be just about TV because I like the gaming aspect also where, like when I was in high school in particular, like I remember when Halo 3 came out, while I didn't binge it in one sitting, it's like I'd play it. You have campaign done before the end of the week. Because games didn't come out Fridays then. I think usually games came out on Tuesdays. And so by Friday, it was like campaign is wrapped up and it's all multiplayer time. But I remember sometimes with certain games playing through them really quickly and being like, oh, well, shit. that game was, I invested a year in being excited about it and thinking about the campaign and what was going to happen. And then it's just kind of,
it's over.
And it's over. And then you start the process of waiting again. And so sometimes, I mean, even today that happens where there's certain games where you play through them really quickly. I think I've gotten a better gauge sometimes. It's like, actually, you don't have to rush through this. Especially that's nice with us here at Last Stand is that no one's required to rush through anything for any kind of content. You can just take it as you can. And so it's more of a self-restraint. It's like, I know you want to know what happens. I know you're worried about spoilers, but just try to enjoy it for what it is. I think about the biggest example where I regret that is Red Dead Redemption 2, where I was getting so nervous about spoilers, and it is a long game, so you kind of get that fatigue. But in hindsight, thinking about it, I'm like, man, I wish I would have enjoyed that journey more organically and kind of done and seen a lot of the side stuff, which I did do a decent amount of it, but it gets to a point where you're like, I got to know what happens. I got to know. So in that way, the quote unquote binge, I guess, of it, in hindsight now, I'm like, man, I still had an amazing experience. One of my most memorable experiences ever playing a game, but could have been better. So, Brad, I'll go to you first. Gaming binges. I remember you once told me that you had a summer that you watched One Piece or Naruto or something.
Yeah.
And also went nuts. So I know you're familiar with this. How are you feeling about it?
Yeah. I don't binge stuff that much anymore because I do like to take my time with stuff now more than I used to. Like you brought up, that's what I call the summer anime, Dustin, is a filthy time. This was back in like 2006, I think. Like I just went through all of Naruto like on YouTube, divided into multiple parts because that's all we had back then. It was real filthy, and I did that. And One Piece, of course, all and stuff and Bleach. So I did all of that. With gaming, though, I remember the longest, I think, concurrent session I ever had was either Kingdom Hearts 2, which I did 14 hours.
Nice.
Like straight when it came out. Resident Evil 5. Yes, I did. Resident Evil 5, me and my friend Mike Huber, we beat the game in like one day. I think we took a dinner break and maybe a lunch break, but that was about it. So that was a long time as well. And Twilight Princess, I think I did 12 hours when the Wii came out, like the night the Wii came out. Like, because I've been waiting for that game for like 6 years or something like that. One of the longest waits ever for a game for me. But even I think to games like Rebirth, Rebirth took me at least a couple weeks to finish. So I definitely got to slow down on that stuff a lot. I did binge Elden Ring a lot, but that was because I reviewed it at the time. And it wasn't like I had a gun to my head saying you have to finish the game at this certain time. But you kind of like, Colin, you can relate, I guess, to this. Like you kind of have like this pressure. Yeah, you want to do it. You want to hit that.
I mean, it was really mandatory when I was at IGN, unless it wasn't a big game. Or it was unreasonable if the embargo was unreasonable. But yeah, but I always wanted to nonetheless.
Yeah, you want to get it out. So I played a lot of that then. But I don't binge a lot of stuff now as much as I used to. Like I kind of like you, Dustin, in the sense of I like to let it sit for a little bit and kind of, that's what I do. Like TV shows that come out. Maybe you get a premiere with 2 or 3 episodes like that.
Yeah.
But then after that, you get week by week because I like to sit with it a lot because if you do like 10-hour marathon, it kind of just blurs together a lot. And I feel like a lot of it just kind of gets lost. So I think that has improved greatly. But I don't know. Like I understand it. I just don't think it's worth it all the time. Especially with games you're talking about. You're like, oh, it's over. I waited all that time for this and it's just kind of over. I think it's better to just let it sit with you and you enjoy it more. I really feel like that. Binging's cool, but I don't know. Now that I'm older, I don't see the appeal of it as much. Maybe because you can't do it as freely sometimes. Like you think back when you're a kid, summer break or something like that. You don't have a job or anything. You're maybe like 12 or something like that. All you're doing is gaming or hanging out with your friends in the day. So you could do like huge sessions. But now we have so many responsibilities and stuff you have to do. I mean, we get to play games a lot still anyways, but I don't know. something about it was a time and place for me, I think, a lot of the times. Like, I need breaks now. I don't know if you guys feel like that, but like, I need to take a second to step back and just kind of chill out, separate myself from things like that.
Sure.
Not too long, but I at least need the breaks.
Yeah.
I remember this was like an unintentional binge where I rented Splinter Cell Chaos Theory for Xbox, and I was playing the online mode. And I remember it was maybe like 11 or something, and my dad and my parents, going to bed. So I was playing and having a great time, and I'm like, man, this game's awesome. I specifically remember there's the mechanic that if you were like the mercenaries, or no, if you were the spies or whatever they're called, you could like grab a mercenary and then use voice chat to taunt them, and like cool. Talk to them briefly and then kill them. But I remember playing, and then my dad calling down. I was like, Dustin, you need to go to bed. I was like, why? I'm like, I'm just playing. He's like, dude, it's 6 a.m. I was like, oh shit. Like, I had no idea that I had stayed up all night playing this. And, but yeah, like now, like even just physically, not just being able to stay awake till 6 a.m., like probably not happening, but also just sitting in the same spot for 7 hours, not happening for sure. But, Colin, I think you and I have had conversations about, like the all at once drop versus week to week, and you're very against the week to. Well, not that you're against, but
it's just antiquated at this point because like it's transparent in the way it used to be transparent when like 90210 would come out every week, and that like, okay, you got to keep your cable bill, and then the cable company gives their little rip to the ABC, and ABC sells ads and all that. But now it seems so transparent where it's like, no, we want you to keep Netflix for 3 months. Don't you understand? And I'm like, well, I'm not doing that at $22 a month. So, I need to. So it's really about like, I'm totally willing to wait. The reason I'm not going to wait for The Last of Us is because I don't want it to get spoiled.
Right.
But I really could give a shit. I mean, I actually really like Severance, and I will get Apple back when that's all done, and then I'll jump into that as well. But yeah, so it's not that I'm against it. It's just that my behavior has changed, and my behavior really began changing the height of not the height of it, but really the beginnings of Netflix becoming mainstream in the disc format when I was in college. And I really started binging things when I was in college on DVD. My girlfriend at the time and I were obsessed with getting things watched and back in the mail because you had like 3 or 4 at a time, and we blazed through a bunch of shit at that point. But I feel like I don't typically watch things like that anymore. And I think a lot of it, it's what Brad said, which is like, I think a lot of it was tempered by my work, because gaming specifically with binging, it's like, yeah, I've played a lot of games for many hours at a time, writing a strategy guide, reviewing it under an embargo where you have like 4 days. Like, you get a game and it's like, all right, this is like Mass Effect. I have a week. It's going to take 50 hours. So I really have to do like 10 hours a day. And often, I don't know if it was like this at Game Trailers and at Easy Allies. Easy Allies, I'm sure it was, but it's like, I would often be like, I'm going home for a week. Like I'm literally, I don't have time for anything. I have to play this game. And I don't enjoy that. I used to play games like that kind of when I was a kid. I mean, Snow Days we were talking about earlier. I have great memories of playing Brave Fencer Musashi, like just constantly for like 3 days and beating it. A lot of role-playing games back in the day, just grinding and doing those kinds of things. But really the way I play and the way I absorb things now is I go through my entire day. It's actually funny, dude. And this is one of the things I love about PSN profiles and sites like that, is you can like track your trophies in all these different ways. And one of the interesting ways they track your trophies is time of day. And if you look at my time of day, it's like I earn almost nothing between the hours of like, 7 a.m. and 7 p.m. And then after that, it's just when everything turns on, because I'm not even I don't even like playing games during the daytime. Not because I think it's a waste of time or whatever, but like the glares on the TV and like things are going on, and I like to be in the zone. But let's assume there's no football on, there's no hockey on, from post dinner 8 p.m. until 3 a.m. I often do, and during vacation I played a shit ton of games. Like I often sit there and just play games. Now, how are we describing binge? Because I'll pause it and like go dick off for an hour.
Okay.
Yeah.
Or like go smoke a bong, or just lose time on Twitter, or whatever. So I'm not, but then there are games like, I think Silent Hill 2 actually was a really good example of a game that really had me engaged, where I was like, I'm really in this and really enjoyed it that way. But I feel often overwhelmed by content. And so getting through it quickly, even out of excitement, seems kind of like just running in place anyway. So because you're never going to be able to see it all and do it all and experience it all. And the only reason that I, again, would want to see something quickly or immediately is just to avoid the spoilers. Then again, I'm surprised when I get through, like, I don't know anything about things that are old and spoilers aren't that common. So I don't even feel that urgency usually. So it's an interesting topic, but I think you and I, Brad, have a similar experience in the industry where it wasn't beaten out of me, but it was just like that kind of gaming reminds me of work.
Mm-hmm.
I remember getting a game for a strategy guide, and it's like, okay, the game comes out in a week. No gun to your head, but wink, wink, nod, nod, be really important for your job and for your reputation if you got this to us in time. And it's like you got to split your day up. And I remember just doing that and dude, I would play games writing guides for fucking 16 hours at a time. Just like pausing every second to write a paragraph of something. Oh my God. So I just don't want to get into that world, Yeah,
because you just don't enjoy it as much, I feel like, when it turns into that.
Dude, playing a game as a critic and playing a game just to play it, two different experiences in my opinion. And why I encourage everyone to play what they want to play as they want to play it with no pressure whatsoever from me. None. Like, I don't care. I think it would be weird if you just stopped playing games. But if, for instance, Dustin was like, I'm just going to play Final Fantasy 14 for 6 months. It's like, okay. I mean, in some sense, it's like, okay, that's what you want to do. You're playing for 40 hours a week or whatever. Who cares? So, but to each their own. I think the MMO stuff, though, would probably suck me in. Those are the games that I've seen people around me, contemporaries.
Oh, yeah.
Binge like crazy. Going back to Warcraft.
Goes without saying. Yeah. World of Warcraft, when that came out, especially. Oh, boy.
And I was in college at that time, too. And I remember. It was not for me, but I had a roommate that it was definitely, my friend Doug, definitely for him, so, I don't know. Too much of a good thing,
Right. Yeah. I know that definitely there's times where like a 3-day binge, unheard of for me, but even if I spend a Saturday and I start playing and I don't know what's going on for my day and I spend 5 or 6 hours or something, I almost feel guilty about it afterwards. It's like, oh, you spent the whole day, which is stupid because it's like, if I didn't have any responsibilities and I enjoyed it, then it's not a waste. So I find that the times that I'll make almost like a plan to go crazy and watch something or play something. I remember when Fallout 4 came out, I took the day off of work on release day and I played all day long. No guilt. And I remember Holly at the end of the day saying, like, I feel bad. We didn't do anything today. I was like, that's the point. I planned this entire day around playing Fallout 4. I succeeded. And that's all I wanted from it. But I also get the perspective. It's like, if you spend a whole day playing something and you maybe had thoughts of what a day could be or whatever, and then it's like, oh, all I did was this. So maybe it doesn't make sense.
I don't like that mentality. I don't like mentality. It either. Like, it's the same the way I feel about it. And I've said it many times about like it's like sleep schedule mentality.
Mm-hmm.
It's a matter of what you want to do. It's your life, and you have to be productive in some sense. You don't want to be a drag on society. You don't want to be a drag on the people around you and family, friends. You need to take care of yourself and take care of your responsibilities. That goes without saying, in my opinion. But a person, like, I don't like when someone's like, oh, what did you do this weekend? It's like, well, I'm really immersed myself in a game or a TV show and just kind of hung out and ate pizza and did that. And it's like, what did you do? And it's like, oh, I went hiking and I fucking read philosophy. And it's like, cool, that's dope. But that doesn't make you better than a person who in my opinion, decided to do that. I just don't buy into that. I'm not saying you do. I'm just saying I think a lot of people do buy into that. And I'm very much a homebody and I feel quite content. It's funny when you say like I didn't go anywhere for 3 days. It's like I leave the house every day because I walk the dogs. I like putzing around the yard and like working in the yard and hanging out in the garage and stuff like that. But like I can go fucking weeks without seeing anyone. Like that's not my wife. So it's just different experiences where I'm like, and I'm totally cool with that. Like I love the hermitage that I've just constructed.
Yeah, it is funny to think about that because there's definitely times during the week where I won't leave the house for 3 days. And I don't think anything of it because I'm working and doing different things. I guess it was just different in this case because it was go downstairs, sit on the couch, go in the kitchen a few times, in the bathroom a few times in the day, and that's it. You know,
I love it. I
but
love it.
Dagster,
Yeah.
what do you think about this?
I mean,
have you had any binges in your time or recently?
Yeah. I mean, overall, I'm not a big binge guy when it comes to media, though, of course, I have dabbled. I mean, I'm old. I'm old school, kind of set in my ways already. But I have to say, Dust, your story has me definitely waxing nostalgic. I mean, you're 20 years my junior, right? And I think like just hearing your story about being over the holidays, how it was for you and Holly, was like, yeah, man, I miss those days of like takeout. You're in the apartment or the house, right? Staying out of the cold, getting cozy on the couch, jammies, you know, from morning, noon, and night, 24 hours a day, blinds drawn, because I do go to that guilt. Like that guilt is just like a go-to for me. Doesn't stop me from doing it if I want to do it, but like that's just like a go-to for me. It's like, how can I be constantly taking inventory about how I could like be more productive or whatever, fall into that mental trap, which is of my own doing, you know? But I think like it reminds me of like Helene and I being in college, being in Philly, being in her apartment, like just didn't even have to be one TV series, especially in the 90s when we first met. It could just be like watching movie after movie. But it was that whole thing of like hibernating, you know, with a thing. Or like friends, buddies in junior high school and high school, like spending like a long weekend with a rented game. You know what I mean? It was like the same type of thing. And I don't think it's like binging. It's like hibernation centered around digesting like a specific media to the point of like driving yourself to cabin fever, like almost insane, but kind of enjoyable at the same time. I don't recommend doing it all the time, but I think everybody's got to do it at least once. Just see how it feels. You know what I mean? It's kind of fun. And it's just, for me, it just reminds me of like the way life used to be. Like you guys were saying it. I think Brad was saying it so well. It's like being younger, having less responsibility, being able to do that. But also like, even when you're older and your life is busier, just kind of treating yourself if you want to do that. I mean, binging, the thing about binging is with video games, I don't think of them that way because I've been around a while, right? And video games was like the first media where I always felt like they were built to enjoy at your own discretion. Like if you want to spend 10 minutes a day with said video game, awesome. If you want to turn it on and not shut it off until you beat it, awesome. Whether it's a 40-hour RPG or, you know what I mean, a action game that's going to take you 5 hours. So binging with video games, not so much, but I binged twice. You know, recently, like within the last 5 to 10 years, I binged things twice. One time it was, you know, it was a nice time to cash in on an opportunity. And the more recent time, it was out of FOMO. Like, and it wasn't even a spoiler thing because I never really thought about that, Dust, as far as like consuming something quickly as an anti-spoiler, but it does make sense. But I could take or leave social media. Like I go through phases with it. Sometimes I'm really active and sometimes I'm not. So it kind of makes me laugh, but it's definitely a younger person's perspective to be like, I have to enjoy this thing that's important to me before it gets ruined. Because another thing you could do is just stay off social media. But I think that's a thing for a 51-year-old to say that. It's like, it's easier for me to say that because it's not a huge part of my life. But I watched Succession. I tried to binge Succession because I missed out on it and it ended. And I said, I got to see what the hubbub about this series is. So let me tune in and see what it is about. And I binged it and I didn't enjoy it as much as I thought I would. And by the time I got to the end, I realized, I wonder if you were watching this in weekly intervals or at least in a more deliberate way, would you have enjoyed it more? And I think the answer was yes. Just for somehow the chemistry between me and that specific show, I think it would have been better served if I had taken my time with it. But where I did do it and I loved it, and I've said this before, right? I guess it was 2020. Game of Thrones was already over. And we got home from Disney World on a trip. It was right on the onset of COVID. I don't know what was wrong with me specifically. I had a terrible sinus infection. I was just like out. You know what I mean? I was just, I was just completely done and just bedridden basically for 4 days. And I said, I'm going to binge watch Game of Thrones. And I did. And I binge watched Game of Thrones over 4 days with like a slight respite at a shock at the Red Wedding. Like I had to take a few hours off.
Nice.
Like just to kind of like recalibrate.
That fucked me up too. Yeah.
Totally fucked me up. But
That's
I enjoyed
the most
it.
fucked up
But it was
TV ever made me, I think.
Oh,
I was on a
it's
megabus on the way to DC when I watched that. And I was like,
no way.
It was
in public.
It was crazy.
Yeah, I mean, no pun, but I was like gutted, Yeah. And I was enjoying it. But the whole thing was also an interesting experience because I was so sick and feverish and, had the cold sweats and everything. I was on like a Z-Pack antibiotic. But the whole thing was the whole experience was kind of like a fever dream. But I also feel like it got me through that experience of just having this wicked sinus infection, which I never had that experience before. And I enjoyed it, but it was one of those things where I was like, wow, I probably would have enjoyed this more having had what you guys were already talking about, like the anticipation, being able to have time to digest it, think it through, let it wash over you. And just the excitement of having that cliffhanger thing from week to week. Like I know what Colin's saying, it does seem like an outdated model, especially in today's media landscape. It seems like an expired way to do things. But at the same time, I think I enjoy being able, something that you really like, something that you're really relishing. It's nice to be able to kind of sit with it. And what I thought about when Dustin set the topic was the way these media companies and movie studios and TV series are kind of like creating this discrepancy with quality. Like I realize like they're creating a division between, I guess, what they consider their A content and their B content, because some things are available to consume, 8 or 10 episodes at a time, an entire season. And some they spoon feed you over a matter of weeks. You're only getting one episode a week. So something like The Sopranos back in the day or Game of Thrones, True Detective still does it, I think. It's like you could only get one a week. You're going to have to wait. And again, it might be that artificial thing of Colin saying of like, draw out your subscription, get a little more money from you, that type of thing. But then, and I think this is Netflix is a good example, right? If I'm not mistaken, you guys could correct me if I'm wrong. I think the new season, the last season of Stranger Things is going to be distributed on a weekly basis. But really? Karate Kid, you can get them all now. So Netflix is saying, this is our premium content. And this one is just, this one is lower tier. You know what I mean? That's interesting. And, and creating that kind of discrepancy between the really good stuff, the stuff that they know that the big audience is coming for, and the stuff that's like filler. I'm not calling Karate Kid filler. I enjoy it. I think it's awesome. But, you know what I mean? That's another thing that they're doing now in trying to figure this Wild West media landscape of like, what's going to be available on a weekly basis and what's going to be available to consume, all at once if you want. And that's really interesting to me, the way it's changing. And now with the advent of like everybody leaning on YouTube, I see this especially with animation, like new series, new evergreen series being launched on YouTube to gauge interest of kids before it goes to broadcast or subscription services. It's really, really interesting the way they're doing things. But I think it's important to remember too, like, we're in the Wild West. It could go to a whole nother mode that we're not even thinking about this year. You know what I mean? It's changing so rapidly. But I think it's not, I guess at the end of the day, it's nice to be able to consume it usually for the most part, the way you want. You know what I mean? If you want to wait and make it an event with your spouse where, you're busy and you have time to connect on a Friday night, and we're gonna wait to see it with each other and make a bowl of popcorn and, kind of like clear ourselves of any responsibility and let the kids leave us alone for a bit and do this. Or if you want to sit down and watch the whole thing, you know what I mean? It's a nice way. It's a nice choice to have, but it makes me realize too, like, I guess, the kids that are even younger than anybody here, the kids that are, let's say, teenagers now, like my kids, they don't even know a world where they had to wait. So, this new normal is they didn't even know the other way. Right. So that's another interesting thing to consider, and my daughter, my oldest, is really guilty of like binging things, like she would never have the patience to wait for something that she's enjoying, and I think part of that is probably discovering things late. Like she discovered The Office after it was over. She discovered Modern Family after it was over. So she can go in and binge
funny shows, man. She's got good taste.
She does have good taste.
Modern Family is very, very good.
It's so funny, dude.
It is. It really is.
I never really watched it.
It's very funny. It's very sophisticated.
It
it's a very sophisticated show, in my opinion.
It's so fun. The pacing of it. Yeah, I admit that's one to binge. That's one for me to binge because there's a lot of it, right? Like seasons and seasons.
Yeah, it's a good one. It's not as good as The Office, but it's different,
Yeah, seems a little different.
Yeah,
but a lot of fun.
It isn't. You mentioned earlier about like, does it for certain shows would the week to week be a detriment or something? I'm trying to remember exactly, but the thing that I thought of, especially since I have Brad here, huge change for me was that I watched One Piece as much as I wanted for 2 years, and then switched to week. And it's funny because there's a counter argument about what I said earlier, where I think for One Piece and other 20-minute animated shows, the week to week actually is a significant downgrade. Overall. Oh, Brad, you're muted.
Oh, sorry. I was say for shorter things like that. Yeah, I could totally see that.
And
because you feel like you're just getting settled in almost.
Yeah, dude. Well, with One Piece, they're probably going to make the pacing better with the break. We'll see. But you'll wait for an episode of One Piece and then you watch it and you're like, one important thing happened or something. Yeah. Or not that it's boring. It's just that it's like, man, all I'm getting is 20 minutes every week. And so it does get frustrating. Yeah. Other point while I'm mentioning One Piece, this is unrelated to the topic, but Brad, this is what fucking annoys me. Okay. I'm catching up on the anime to avoid spoilers online. Success. Then I'm dodging manga spoilers. I say, you know what? It's time. Catch up on manga. Fantastic. I don't have to worry about spoilers at all. But now I've learned there's the world of manga leaks where 4-5 days before the chapter comes out, some translator in fucking Bulgaria or something, I don't know, some random spot there will be like, oh, this will happen and this will happen and this will happen. It's not even panels. No, it's just like a little text write-up. And people start talking about it. Like, why? Just wait.
Yeah.
Just wait. It is not that long to wait. Instead, you're reading some dude's write-up of the chapter. Just wait.
Oh,
it's so disrespectful.
People like spoilers and everything. Think of like The Last of Us Part 2 when those spoilers came out. It's like, I didn't want to fucking read that. No. I don't want to know any of that. Well, it's like, even think of like Colin. Colin read all of the Wolverine stuff and like just looked at everything. He's like, I don't give a shit.
Yeah, I didn't give a shit. But the funniest thing is that I did read all the Insomniac leaks and I don't remember one fucking iota of it. So because it's like, I've said this to people before. It's like when people would try to, or not try to spoil, but you'd see spoiler for like Game of Thrones or something. And it's like fucking Darius the Conqueror did all, this fake thing in this fake place and this thing you never heard of. And I'm like, I'm not grounded in this reality. So when I'm like, I have no idea what the fuck you're talking about. And I forget, it goes in one ear and out the other. And that was what was like reading Marvel stuff. Where it's like Wolverine meets this superhero and does this thing to this villain and this plate. And I'm like, I don't know, man. It's so that was nice because I really had, and who knows if we'll ever fucking see that game. I mean,
yeah.
That game, my friend, Marcus Smith, who directed Resistance 3, took over as director of that game recently.
Oh, so. Right. Yeah. Where did the other guy go? Did he go to Xbox?
Yeah, he bounced. He went to
Perfect Dark.
Yeah. What do they call the Initiative?
Yeah.
Oh, right. Because Insomniac's in Burbank and the Initiative's in Santa Monica, so pretty close.
Yeah. But yeah, people chill out with the One Piece chapter write-ups. Respect Oda. Okay. No, it's not necessary.
You guys, Dagan loves spoilers.
Well, I do love spoilers, but Dustin does make a good.
Don't pretend. Don't be silent. You're
no,
one.
I feel like it's different.
I'm so guilty of that. But Dustin makes a good point, though, about spoiling. There's something about the length of the thing, right? Oh, it's like the 22. You can't spoil you can't. I think back because I'm old school, right? Like take something like Dragon Ball Z, right? Even if you were watching it on Toonami, right? I saw it earlier than that. But even if you were on VHS tapes, so it was harder to access. But even being more accessible on Cartoon Network, like those pre-battle conversations could go on for 6 episodes. Can you imagine waiting? You know what I mean? That would have been the very definition of frustration. So there's something about, I understand binging, 22-minute, half-hour things. That makes more sense to me than the hour and a half long format, especially something that's designed to be cliffhangery. You know what I mean? Like Breaking Bad was designed to be that way. Think about it for Gilligan designed it that way. It was like Hitchcock. You know what I mean? You wanted to draw it out.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I'm very guilty of spoiling things for me. And oddly, like Colin saying, like, he'll spoil things that he's not invested in.
Oh yeah,
I do the opposite.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you don't give a shit, then you just kind of want to know.
I've spoiled many things for myself that way. Yeah.
Yeah. But I spoil things I really give a shit about. So it really doesn't make a lot of sense.
Yeah, Dagan would read Star Wars scripts and do all sorts of things before they were even the movies were released and stuff. So
that's funny,
and it wouldn't ruin it. It just doesn't ruin it for me.
I guess that is fair. And ultimately, people enjoy things in different ways. The thing that's just particularly weird about the One Piece chapter spoilers is that it's coming so close, and if you're 1,000+ chapters invested over multiple decades, and it's like you like reading the manga. It's 3 days to just see it properly instead of someone's write up. I don't know. For me, it's different just because it's so tiny. Just wait. Mm-hmm. Just wait. Have you seen that, Brad? Seen the write ups on Twitter?
Of course I have. Yeah.
It's annoying. I feel like I can't be a part of the community that I waited so long.
I have friends in the One Piece community. I know.
That's just me.
Yeah, it's weird.
Well, what do you guys think of this, though? And Last of Us is a perfect example, right? Let's say people really enjoyed the first season of the HBO show. Do you guys recommend that they should play the game, or should you, thereby spoiling a lot of what's going to happen in season 2, or should they just watch season 2?
We don't know the answer to that yet because we don't know if has season 2 been, or you haven't played The Last of Us Part 2, Dig?
I have not.
We should actually set something up to play that now that we know that the game's coming out or the TV show is coming out in April. You should play because it just came to PS5. I'm gonna replay it on PS5 to freshen up. But has it been spoiled for you?
No,
really,
nope. It has not.
Good.
That's great.
That doesn't mean awesome. I'm not going to go in and spoil it for myself.
Dave, you've come this far. I mean,
yeah,
the game is 5 years old. But we don't know if. How do I put this? The second game is so extreme in some of the things that happen in it that it's unclear if they could even get away with doing that in a TV show in some sense.
The same without
doing more. And so I think what a lot of the curiosity about season 2 at the HBO show is what is the pacing going to be? And are they going to try to extract multiple seasons out of it? Which I assume they're going to. And I have this theory that they're going to try to line The Last of Us Part 3 up with the game, with the show.
That'd be cool.
Which would be nice, and try to extract much more and maybe even go backwards in some sense because there's 20 years between The Last of Us, the beginning of The Last of Us, and the events that precipitate it. So there's all of that unexplored time too. But we should definitely get that together for Sacred Symbols Plus Day because I want to.
That'd be cool.
Yeah, that would be fun. So, or maybe a knockback or something we can do.
That would be really cool.
Yeah, that would be fun. So let's plan on that. But that's so fun that it hasn't been spoiled for you. That's great.
Yeah, no, it really for some reason it hasn't been, fortunately. But the different media makes it hard. Manga and anime, or games and films, it makes it difficult. It adds another layer, of potentially spoiling things and whether people should enjoy both things or wait, and kind of creates this timeline for people. It's interesting. It's a nice problem to have, especially if things are good, especially if games like The Last of Us, which lend themselves so well to episodic television or films, it's kind of neat, but it makes it hard for the consumer. And then on top of that, just the sheer variety of things. I always wonder what I'm missing because it's not getting the accolades or it's not getting a lot of word of mouth. Things that might be smaller, that might be less celebrated, but it might be good. It's a whole thing.
There's infinite good content out there. That's what I've just realized is I figure this out on YouTube all the time where I just run into things over and over and over again where I'm like, why is this so good? Why is this coin collecting YouTube channel so interesting? And I'm being dead serious. It's like, what are we doing? Like, there's just like this is like the best edited shit I've ever seen in my life. It's about fucking Buffalo nickels, and then you go to the streaming services and there is just a lot of stuff there. But you were saying it earlier. I think Dustin, you were kind of touching on it. Is like the one thing I'm really frustrated in. So I got Netflix again for the football games on Christmas, so I have it for like a few more weeks, and I'm trying to like get use out of it. And I'm just noticing that they just bloat everything. And it really is. It's what you were saying. It's like, it's a major turnoff to me. This documentary doesn't need to be 4 hours long. This could have been a half an hour YouTube video. It probably would have been better. And I don't know if you guys read that thing recently. I think it was like someone talking about, it's either Netflix or Amazon Prime saying, like a creative guy, like a director or something, saying something along the lines of like, he was told by someone at one of these companies, and I'm kind of paraphrasing, but it was like something along the lines of, how people make TV and they want you to lean in. We want you to make TV where people aren't paying attention, like they're doing something else.
Yeah. Yes, I know what you're talking about.
And I'm like, what? Like, what are you talking about?
So strange.
It's so weird. And I'm like, okay, I guess our priorities are different. I guess what I'm saying is get YouTube Premium. You never have to get anything else because it's fucking awesome.
Yes.
Yeah, it's true. Mm-hmm. That is true.
Well worth it.
Yeah. Yeah, just creating background noise because that's what people do now. I mean, I know my attention span's been affected. It's so much harder for me to watch a movie than anything on YouTube. Like sit down and say, oh, I'm about to invest 3 hours. Like that's the reason I haven't seen Nosferatu in the theaters yet. I just don't know if I could do it.
Oh, that movie is Dagan bait. Like that's a Dagan ass movie.
Did you see it, Dust?
I have. It doesn't feel like, well, I think is it 2 or 2.5? Either way, it's not.
That's not too bad.
I didn't feel like, it wasn't like watching Oppenheimer or Dune, which Oppenheimer is the shortest 3-hour movie. I agree. It doesn't feel like 3 hours at all.
No, it doesn't. But yeah, I got to see it in the theater. I have to.
It's great.
Yeah, do it.
I'll have to do it, my friends.
Well, I feel content. I feel satisfied. I feel warm. So
nice.
Cozy.
It's interesting.
Good.
Not about this topic, just in general.
Yeah.
You feel warm down there?
I'm feeling warm all over, dude.
Nice.
Trust me.
I like it. Brad, I'm going over to you, my friend, for a more serious but important, timely topic.
Yeah, so many of you know I live in Southern California, and everyone thinks all of California, or Southern California in general, is on fire right now. Not true. A lot of us are totally fine. But yes, LA itself is on fire. LA is toast, man. They're cooked. It's over. I've seen tons of footage of like places I've been and seen just completely gone, man. And it's heartbreaking. And you know what? I've seen a lot of like people being like, oh, good, California. That's what they get. It's like, come on, guys. Like, you don't got to like the politics here.
That's
like,
not good.
And all that stuff. It's like, there's a lot of normal people here working hard and all that kind of stuff. Just their lives are ruined. It's like, come on, man. Have a little empathy.
Yeah. I mean,
yeah, that burn Hollywood burn thing is
another
crazy.
thing that goes without saying.
It's so nuts. It's
but I mean, I'm from California. I've lived here all my life, so I'm no stranger to wildfires. That's something that California deals with all the time. And just this time around, it's been very interesting seeing things like, oh, there's just no water in the hydrants. And it's like, cool. And there's that whole thing about like that firefighter or whatever saying like, well, if your husband's trapped in there, like a burning building, I'm paraphrasing, but like they're in the wrong place. That's their fault for being in there. I'm not gonna like save them.
Yeah, I
like,
did see that. I did. Yeah, I did.
It's something along those lines.
I'm
like, what's going on here, man? Like, what is even happening at this whole scenario? It seems like a whole clusterfuck, and just everyone is just pissed off right now about how things are being handled, and rightfully so. And I'm just like, man, this is crazy. And I just think about all like the natural disasters and elemental things that other places go through, like Dagan and Colin, like hurricane. What was it, Katrina? Which was the hurricane that hit like Jersey and all that stuff? Like you guys said.
Oh, in 2011, that was Hurricane.
Yeah, Sandy.
Which one was
that? Sandy.
Sandy, that was the one. Yeah,
like
we've had a few really bad ones. That was the one.
Yeah, like you guys had like a shore house or something like that, right? That got affected by it.
Yeah, it went to the ocean.
It's like crazy. Just like lives ruined immediately, like losing everything like that. Like thank God it wasn't like your only place you lived at the time.
Yeah, I mean,
like that.
It sucks. I mean, ironically, so we kind of absorbed a beach house in my family, my mom's side of the family, from her husband, who had a beach house as a kid in New Jersey, and then they got married and his parents passed away, and they've been together for a long time. So it's kind of like just in the family now. And the only shitty bit, I mean, it was a shitty situation. It was a really bad situation. But it destroyed, like it just fucked the house up. It had to just be rebuilt and on stilts and everything. But
yeah, right.
It's that like my mom had just happened to have redone the entire house like the year before, and FEMA. I mean, we got fucked. Like we lost a lot of money. So, it was a bad situation. But yeah, it's not our primary dwelling, so that was a blessing. Because some people in that neighborhood, it is their primary dwelling.
Totally.
Yeah.
Like all those people, they had the fires, and like last year maybe in Maui, I remember all that. Like all those places, like Lahaina, just
horrible,
torn down. It's just like it's brutal, man. And I think. Like I'm just imagining like people that live in like Tornado Alley and dealing with all that kind of stuff, and just how crazy and dangerous a lot of that and scary a lot of that stuff is. And it's like, what can you do? Kind of thing. If you have a tornado, you take cover, shelter. I don't know. That freaks me out. I'm glad I don't have to deal with that.
That's the scariest one, I think, tornadoes.
Yeah, tornadoes freak me out the most. Like in California, people always think about earthquakes. And I honestly don't even think about earthquakes really that much at all here. I think about fire probably the most because it seems like the most prevalent thing. With earthquakes, of course, I think back to, what was it, Colin, in San Francisco? Like that great earthquake. I forgot what year that was.
Oh, it was 1906.
It was 1906. Just like all the brick there. It was a disaster.
It like liquefied basically. And much of the city, like along the bridge, like the marina and stuff, is built on the ruins of that earthquake. And the theory is that if it happens again, that part of the city is completely fucked. Yeah, and then there was a bad one in 1989 in San Francisco as well, and then down by you in 1994 there was a bad one. And those were really the last like major California earthquakes. I felt a bunch of them, but none of them were like on that level.
Yeah, and we've just been going through this stuff, of course, with news and everything, social media, just being able to see everything constantly. Like we in Texas, they had like that big freeze or like winter storm and all that kind of stuff. I'm just like, have you guys ever experienced one of these things, been involved in it? Dustin, I'm really curious about you. I don't really know like what goes on in Pennsylvania from that standpoint. Have you ever experienced anything like this?
Yeah, I probably have the least experience with natural disasters at all from anyone here. That for us, every once in a while you'll get a tornado warning or a tornado watch, but it's really, we don't live in a flat region. Overall, it's pretty hilly, mountainous at different points. So I've always wondered if a tornado did land in Butler somehow, specifically the city. We live in basically like a valley. I don't know how tornadoes work. I've always wondered, would it like bounce around like it's like a Beyblade inside or something?
Yeah.
So, and I remember we would do tornado drills at school where you were supposed to get a big hardcover book. You go out in the hallway and then squat down against the walls and put the book over your head, which it's like, I don't know if that's really going to do anything. If a tornado, like
the atomic bomb drills.
Yeah.
It's like, just tell the kids to pray, for Christ's sake. It's over.
You're done. Probably the most recent kind of natural disaster is that we did have an ice storm here a few years ago that knocked out power all over. And it was weird just because it wasn't like a food scarcity situation, but all the grocery stores lost power for an extended period of time where they can't keep cold, like frozen food or produce or anything like that. It was just gone. And I remember too, there might be a photo on my Twitter where as things were starting to open back up a few days later, I remember going to Target. I don't know if they were on generator power, but only half the lights were on. And it was a really weird experience being in a store that's half dark, but they were still open. Mm-hmm. So I remember walking around and being like, this is really odd. But people around here aren't, even though we do get some extreme weather, people, when stuff like that happens, people go nuts here. Like grocery store packed, people go out and get your milk and eggs, stuff like that. Be prepared. So luckily we're pretty untouched by natural disasters here. Every once in a while, I think this happened maybe 2 or 3 times in my life where we will have some kind of earthquake that registers.
Oh, from fracking?
Yeah, from fracking or something. I don't know. But and there's always memes on like local Facebook, like people that it's a chair falling over in their backyard and it says we will rebuild, stuff like that. I've never felt them when they've happened. I've always been oblivious because they're that small. But in my few recent trips to Japan, it is something that I've thought about when I'm there. I'm like, dude, what if there's an earthquake? And there's always a small part of me that I don't want the earthquake to hit when I'm in Japan. Obviously, that would be a horrifying situation. They seem very prepared overall.
You want to see an earthquake.
Yes, an earthquake. A minor earthquake that no one gets hurt, but you get to experience. Be kind of cool. Not going to lie. But it's never happened any of the times that I've been in an earthquake area. But it would be cool to experience it one day, just on my terms and not a crazy one. So that's about it. That's all I got.
Interesting. Dagan, so I know you've been investigating kind of these fires things and keeping watch. What are your thoughts on all this going on right now? Because you messaged me and Chris, just checking in on us, making sure we're okay, which I appreciate. It's very nice of you.
It's nice to have some geography. You definitely gave me a geography lesson. I was saying to Brad, and I know I mentioned this early in the show, like I don't, even though I spent time out there, not only with Colin, but I lived in LA. I lived in Malibu, I lived in Westwood, and I lived in West Hollywood over the course of like almost a year. So I spent time in LA. Still, my geography, I'm guilty of that in Philly too. Like, I'm like, are we north of Philly? Are we south of Philly? Why can't I get this straight? I've been here for 30 years. So I'm not a big geography guy, but I've been very invested in these fires because I have so many friends out there, dude. Between animation and an animation career that spans almost 30 years already, and all my friends that moved out there for skateboarding, and, people that I know from LSM and just, fans of the shows. And there's just like a lot of people I know on the West Coast. And I've been so invested in it and worried about it. And I don't know, there's something about it where this time, like you guys are saying, there's been natural disasters all over the world. This thing happens. And I think we, as humankind, but I especially have been very guilty of this. It's like, well, it's not my neck of the woods. You give it a little bit of bandwidth. You stop thinking about it. You know what I mean? What can I do? You feel powerless, but also you feel a little bit apathetic because it's like, I'm dealing with my own shit. That's on the other side of the country or that's on the other side of the world. And that whole dynamic, which I guess in some ways could be self-preservation, right? Or we drive ourselves nuts if we're just worried about everything all the time, especially as like an empathetic person. But this time I don't know if it's social media. I guess that's a big part of it, but there's just something about it where I feel compelled to pay attention and give it my energy. And I'm worried. You know what I mean? Like, I think it's a lot worse than the media is letting on for some reason. I think you could find out, people, average citizens, pedestrians, talking about it on social media. So you have to filter through that, what's true, what's false, all that kind of thing. That makes it tough. But there's just something about it where I feel like it's wrong not to pay attention, not just because the devastation and the massive loss of property, and in some cases loss of life, and, you know, people's life going down the tubes and everything like that. But, you know, and then seeing the things like you guys are saying, like that burn, Hollywood burn, it's like, there's all kinds of people. It's not just Hollywood out there.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I don't know. There's just something this time, and it could be my age or whatever, or just kind of being tired of the way I usually deal with this stuff, which is like worry about it, give it a little bit of energy, and then move on to the next thing, like a lot of us do. It's like, you know, this is serious. I feel like it's worth paying attention to. It doesn't affect me. I'm in Philadelphia. I'm not in Los Angeles, but it does affect me. You know what I mean? Because I don't know. This time I just feel worried, and there's something that's really bothering me, which is nothing new, but it's like, I almost feel like I take great exception to like people's posts now on Instagram and Twitter. It's like, go Eagles, or check out my food, or look at the new car I just bought. Like, I feel like there should be a moratorium on all that shit when something like this is happening. It's like, I know it's weird, and I know it's even wrong to say, but it's like, I think let's just kind of like stop celebrating other things when these other people are suffering. Now, this is a tale as old as time, right? But there's just something that's hitting me about it this time, where it just seems like in bad taste to be talking about the things we're happy about when people are suffering. And for some reason, the point is getting driven home with this particular natural disaster this time. I don't know what it is. You know, maybe I was just ready to embrace this or whatever. It's just my time to pay a little more attention, or be a little more active and check in on people. I have spent the last 2 days checking in on my friends and colleagues and one-time colleagues and everybody out there. And I think the Pacific Palisades fire is interesting because I think it's all but out, but it's massive devastation. And then I saw some clips of Malibu outside Topanga on the Pacific Coast Highway, where I lived in a little bungalow for like 3 months. I think it's gone. I think it's basically fell into the Pacific Ocean. So like my exact bungalow is burnt to the ground, which was kind of riveting and, you know, just fascinating, but also just like really depressing. And I checked in with one friend of mine who's from Long Island, but he's been out there with his family for years. He has a wife and a daughter. And I forget the name of his town, but you could see the Hollywood sign way in the distance from his backyard. And he said the Eaton fire, you know, there's several blazes burning out there, is only 3% contained, and it's encroaching. So I'm super worried about him specifically right now. But the natural disaster thing is crazy, man, because we've talked about this before, but it does seem like no matter where you are in the world, you do have the one thing to contend with, you know, whether it's really bad, potentially, you know, super dangerous blizzards or typhoons or earthquakes or tornadoes and this type of thing. I mean, my one wish, you know, going out on a lighthearted way is like, if we're going to have natural disasters, I think tornadoes are awesome. Like visually, like the spectacle of a tornado, like they're horrifying, but it's super cool to look at. What would be even better is if we had real life kaiju just coming up every now and again, Godzilla-like creatures.
Pacific Rim, yeah.
Just coming up to wreak havoc. You know, there's no rhythm to it. There's no rhyme or reason. We don't know when they're coming, just like a Godzilla film. That would be at least entertaining. That goes back to my thing about dinosaurs. It's like, why can't men and T-Rex coexist? Like, it would just be thrilling. You know what I mean? It would be freaking horrifying.
It would be thrilling.
But it would be thrilling. So yeah, man, it's nice to know that you're safe. As far as we know, Chris is safe. Although there is an animation studio, shout out to Renegade Animation, who's really close to where Chris lives. And one of my, you know, bosses, the director at Renegade, was saying it just missed them. So I don't, you know, it's scary because it's not over. And the conditions out there are bad. I know it's like, but it's something crazy, like 90-mile-an-hour winds.
Yeah, it's very windy. Winds.
Yeah.
That's insane.
Yeah, it was very windy. Even here,
very unusual.
Crazy.
Like the perfect storm. It's like what happened to my mom's house, like that. You know, knock wood. Those conditions, like the water table rising that high in South Central Jersey Shore, was like once in a lifetime. And it seems like this is the wildfire version of that. So where it's like the winds are blowing just right, you know what I mean? And apparently they were warned. Shout out to the firefighters. That's the other thing I think about, especially, we had a dad who was a Brooklyn firefighter. It's like those men and women are just made of different stuff.
Mm-hmm.
To have that kind of selflessness and that kind of courage is something that's so beyond me. To me, that's a superpower. I mean, I don't even know what else to call it, and the fact that I think they're coming all the way down from Vancouver, Portland, Oregon, Washington, and now from Idaho. So Utah. So it's like Colorado possibly. So it's like, it's insane that at least they're wearing good hands with the professional firefighters. They're doing everything they can. But yeah, man, it's frightening as hell. It really is. It really is.
Colin, what are your thoughts on all this? The fire, particularly, any other disasters going on in the world?
About the fire, I mean, I agree with the sentiment that I don't understand the celebration of, or like the kind of, nonchalant attitude about people, even if they have money, losing everything. Right. I just wish that there was more sympathy for people. Like, I lived in Los Angeles. I didn't like it, but I have a connection to it, and I certainly don't want bad things to happen to it. And I don't think people realize that, like, they do. If you've never been there, it's like, oh yeah, it is Hollywood and rich people and all this. It's like, no, it's really just mostly normal people.
Yeah.
A lot of impoverished people, poor, the working poor, blue collar,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of just normal people. And it's also like a uniquely beautiful place. I think San Francisco in the Bay Area is even more beautiful, but California just has rights and lefts of just constant punches to the face of beautiful topography everywhere you go. And it's unlike anything I've ever seen in my entire life. It's like it's the crown jewel of the United States, in my opinion. And just because it's run by some maniac people, then that is a part of the story, whether people want to acknowledge it or not. It doesn't mean that, it's a wonderful place. And I have a love for California. I spent a lot of my life there, so it's sad for me to see this. What was really eye-opening about the Palisades fire specifically was I was looking at the maps and I'm like, dude, where I lived in Santa Monica got evacuated,
Mm-hmm.
Did it really?
Like,
I saw it got close.
There was like a red, I was reading it and I'm looking at it now. And it's in a yellow paint or a yellow color now. It's not paint. Where the red is like, I guess, mandatory and the yellow is suggested or whatever. And it's moved to that yellow color, but it's like, that's crazy because I lived there obviously, but when I lived there were like bad fires in Brentwood and Bel Air. I don't know how much people know. I was teaching Michael a little bit about it and like and others where like people don't really know LA. It's huge. It's huge.
Yeah.
It's so big.
And when I lived there, so the Pacific Palisades is like northwest of Santa Monica, and the coast turns at almost a 90-degree angle and goes towards Malibu. And up towards Calabasas and like Woodland Hills and shit. And that's like all, and Topanga, like Dagan was saying, that's all fucked up. And the fires never kind of made that turn towards Santa Monica, Venice, Marina del Rey, going on Playa del Rey and all of the rest. And it kind of was threatening to do that. And I was talking to my, our mother, because she was reaching out, kind of like I was saying earlier, inquiring about this stuff. And she's like, you always would tell me when there were fires in like Bel Air and Brentwood, that you were fine. And I was like, yeah, I was. Like, conventional wisdom is that the fires never jump, especially over the 10, like deep into Santa Monica. And it never really got that far, but it was just kind of unthinkable. So I was like, holy shit. I kind of had like this false sense of security in that place because it kind of did get a little crazy. I was checking in on some people too. Chris, it's funny. Like, I probably seem non-concerned. I think the people in my life understand that I know LA well enough to know that like they're fine. So I haven't, I was specifically with Chris. Chris is in Burbank. And he's actually more threatened by a different fire over there.
Right.
The one that's kind of near Pasadena and Glendale or whatever. Yeah. So like there's a different fire actually that's kind of near him. But the funny one to me was Ramon, because Ramon lives in Boyle Heights, which is in like East LA, near kind of close to Dodger Stadium. He used to live in like Silver Lake and Echo Park, which is like a little further into the city, kind of near downtown. And I was joking with him because I'm like, dude, I didn't reach out because I'm like, you're totally fine. And he's like, yeah, we're okay. The air quality's horrible, you know, and all of the rest. But I'm like, yeah, so it's about knowing that the city's very much a spread and that there are very specific places that are threatened by it. And one of the things that I remember very, very well from the previous fires is driving up the 405 in like an Uber or whatever. And on one side of 405 is Brentwood. On the other side of the 405 is like Bel Air after you get through Westwood or whatever. And it was just completely incinerated. And there are actually famous pictures of people driving down that when both sides of it are on fire. That was as close as it had gotten to me before that, which is pretty close, but not
that's close,
but not bad. And also it's upwind. So like you never really got major consequences of that. But since the fires in the Palisades are going around the coast, it's driving into Santa Monica. And so, yeah, it got pretty dicey over there, but it's a terrible thing, dude. And you know, the things, I don't want to get into any of these things deeply, but there is a lot to say about how this happened and why this happened. And it is important. And in some way it is partisan. And I know that people like, it's like, now is not the time for partisan politics. And it's like, no, it is the time for partisan politics. This is a once party state that refused to do fire forest management for many years for some reason. You know, these things are going to happen if you don't pay attention. And they also just don't spontaneously start. That's the other thing. So it's like, how did these start? It's pretty clear that at least some of them were started by people, I would assume.
That's what they're saying.
And you have to kind of prepare for the eventualities that you have this tinder. The other thing that's really frustrating, you can read about the Sierra Club and all this kind of stuff, is like California is covered in eucalyptus. I don't know if you guys know anything about this. Like people brought eucalyptus over like after the Civil War, and it's proliferated heavily and it's not native and it's incredibly fire prone. And we know that from what happens in Australia because they have wildfires there too. So there's all sorts of fucked up ecological issues. People are quick to blame it on like global warming and climate change. And I'm like, I'm not a global warming denier or climate change denier. Like it's obviously changing. In my own lifetime, it's obviously changing. You'd have to be fucking oblivious. But I don't know that you can blame this on that. It's like, it's total mismanagement. And it's sad that these kinds of things are actually avoidable. And the crazy thing and the unintuitive thing that we all know is like forest management is burning this shit down yourself. And I said it on Sacred actually, that I was reading that they're so far behind apparently in controlled burns that there's a suggestion that they need to do like 1 million acres a year for a while to like in all these different places. We're talking about fires that are only 20 or 30,000 acres. I mean, not only, it's a lot of land, but so I just think that there's like a lot to say about that too. There's no one to blame but the politicians there that all come from a single voter base and a single party. And I was listening to who was it? God, it was someone was predicting. Oh, it was like Adam Carolla or someone random one who was saying like, this is going to change voting behavior in this area because I remember actually, I lived in California in 2014. We voted for a massive bond to build more reservoirs for these exact things. We voted for it. It passed like 70-something% and just never happened. You know, it's like this, people's behavior has to change. No one deserved this, what happened to them. But unfortunately, on the back end, you get what you vote for every time. And these people were not up to the task. It's horrible. No water in the reservoirs. No, the hydrant. This is third world country shit.
That's scary.
And that to me is, Los Angeles is a jewel of the United States. It's an important city, a cultural touchstone for the world. Like, have a little care for it, for Christ's sake.
You said it, man.
That's it. It's crazy. The level of incompetence is nuts. It's through the roof, and something's got to change there. And so, unfortunately, it is very political. And you know what? The lack of action has consequences. And so what I really want to know now is like, who started these fires? Because I bet you some of them, if not all of them, were started by people. And if they'll ever
one
figure that out.
in custody already, right?
Yeah, I think that. And there was another one. Like, I don't know if you guys saw this video of like a citizen's arrest of like some people in a neighborhood, like taking a dude down and had like a blowtorch kind of thing going on.
No.
Whoa.
It's like, dude, are you guys crazy? Like, what is going on? Do we have a social contract or don't we? Like, this is the last shit anyone needs to be worrying about. Plus all of the looting that's apparently happening.
Yeah, that's happening now.
Which is like, dude, come on. It's third world. Like,
yeah.
So
city
that's my major takeaway is like how close it got to where I used to live, how destructive it was to so much beauty, how incompetent the response has been, and how I imagine if anyone has a fucking brain that this is going to change the way people treat their local government and their state government, which is let them down.
Yeah.
You can't stop crazy people from starting fires, and you're not going to stop forest fires. They happen. They're supposed to happen. They have to happen.
Yeah, that happens. Yeah.
They have to. They've happened. It's time immemorial. Lightning has struck forest and burned them to the ground. And that's just, so you got to, if you want to live around it, you've got to manage it. You've got to.
Yeah.
So it's a shame, dude. It's a real shame. And I feel for
it
everyone
would be
there.
heartbreaking anywhere, but just there, like Colin said, like one of the biggest cities in the country, one of the most populated, one of the most culturally important, one of the most beautiful. Like, there's just so much to worry about with this. It's really a sin. And yeah, it does beg the question, like, why not take care of all the environmental factors? So, because there's going to be a lack of rain. There's going to be, the things that have been going on in that region of the world for many decades. So you got to kind of put that infrastructure in place to deal with this when it happens. And yeah, I think people are dismissive because it's like, oh, Southern California, Hollywood, the elite, they're just going to rebuild. They have money. But, think about, these are people's lives, like the places they go, the homes they made, their created their families and made their memories in, the sentimental values. It's not just monetary. But then the other thing is, like, there's just, like, any big city in the world, it's fueled by regular people. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's crazy that people don't like that. That needs to be said. There's a lack of humanity, and just because a person is wealthy, watching their life burn down before them, even though they're going to get insurance money or whatever, it doesn't make it any less traumatic. Because unless you just don't believe in kind of a humanistic point of view, it's a horrible thing to happen to people. And one thing I want to say as I exit is I saw because insurance has been a big part of this.
Yeah.
California, I think it was in the 80s. So this because you live there, Brad, and I learned this when I lived there and voted many times, is like California is obsessive about voting for propositions. And there was a proposition, I think in 88, to kind of limit the amount insurance companies could charge for, home insurance. And this has had a cascading kind of effect on the ability of insurance companies to make money in these places. And so they've pulled out of these places. Now, this seems like at first blush, you're like, yeah, fuck these guys for doing that. But I did see an interesting take where it was like, actually, so like in Palisades, State Farm canceled like 3,000 policies 6 months ago or something like that. And this guy made a good point. It was on X where I saw it, where he was like something along the lines of, so the best professional, highly paid risk assessors in the world pulled these policies out 6 months ago. And you guys were like, we shouldn't look into why this might be happening, as far as like, what are they seeing? Like, what is, because the guy was making a point in a follow-up X post where he was like, insurance companies not only want your money, but they're like the ones that don't want your house to burn down more than anyone.
Of course.
So when they're like refusing to take your money because the risk is too high and they cannot charge a premium, that's actually a problem of like regulation. And when their professional, like very highly paid risk assessors look at all the data and are like, this is about to get fucked up, instead of yelling at them for leaving, you should have been like, holy shit, can you share what you're seeing with us so we can manage the situation? So in some sense, you got to, it's a very complex issue, I don't know. I just, it's horrible. It's a horrible thing.
So the red flags were there.
Oh my God. All over the place.
In spades. Yeah.
Dude,
it's crazy.
The good thing the mayor was in Ghana during it. So
is that right? Is that where he was?
It's a she. Yeah. She was there for like something and she had to like come back quickly or whatever. And it was just a whole mess.
She had nothing to say really. either about it. Yeah.
Oh, Jesus.
It's been a mess, Dagan.
I haven't heard anything about the mayor. Keep hearing about, from the governor's perspective, but not hear anything about the mayor. Yeah,
Yes.
I mean, that's a mess with a capital M. It's so crazy. I don't know if I told you guys about this. This is a whole nother thing going on with us, that, really eye-opening for me. We've been vacationing in the Jersey Shore since I found out about the Jersey Shore. Like, we grew up on Long Island. I never knew the Jersey Shore was a thing, but that's where all the Philadelphians have gone time immemorial for vacations. That's their beach, right? So when I met my Philly gal, that's where, my family grew up on the beaches there in Jersey Shore. So Helene and I have been wanting to buy land. Now, we can't afford to build, but we figure, and it's become very clear, that we'll never have a beach house. We'll never have two houses. So the plan is to eventually sell the house that we live in now and build a home at the beach and call that home base, right? So we've been looking for land, and we finally, down there, South Jersey, and we finally engaged a real estate agent, and he's great. He's awesome. He's a young guy, but he's born and raised down there. He stays there all year round. He knows it like the back of his hand. So he's been awesome. But he sent me some documentation where if you buy waterfront property down there, you basically now sign a waiver, at least where we're looking around the Cape May area, which is all the way down. Basically acknowledging that the shore is being sort of whittled away 2 feet at a time annually. So if you buy beachfront property, you're kind of acknowledging that you're losing 2 feet a year, and that you're agreeing to put in the appropriate infrastructure. In that case, you'd need like all kinds of like, beachheads and anti-erosion things and bulkheads and all that kind of thing. And to the point where now we're looking inland, because it's like, if Helene and I start building a house in 10 years, and we're, we can't look all the way down on the ocean on the island. So we're a little inland and we're on the bay side. That's what we can afford. There's certain parts of the bay down there that are vast. You can't see Delaware on the other side. It's that far away. So it kind of looks like the ocean. So that's our way to get our waterfront property, and kind of like, that's our wiggle room. That's how we could swing it down there. And it's like, no, I won't do it, because if we start building in 10 years or 11 years, 12 years, you're acknowledging that 24 feet of this beach is going to be gone. Like, why would I do that? You know what I mean? So it's like thinking about future environmental disasters like hurricanes and stuff. And, it makes me so worried about people that live along the coast, because it just seems like there's so much to deal with, and what's it worth? I would love to look out my back window with a cup of coffee and look at the water every day. But, that seems to come at a great cost potentially. And the price of insurance is not just fire insurance. Now it's flood insurance, right? Mm-hmm. Even if the insurance company will cover you, I mean, the sums are astronomical. So I don't know. It's interesting. Brad, when you live out in Irvine, how far are you from the beach?
The ocean?
Yeah.
I would say the beach is like a 20-minute drive.
Okay. See, that would be ideal for me. Close, but not on.
Yeah, it's close enough where it's like not a big deal to go down there.
Yeah. That's it. That's interesting.
Yeah, I wouldn't build anything near the coast anymore.
It's hard, dude.
I just think that, the warming trend is gonna, it's, I don't think it's gonna be as extreme as people think it is. It's not gonna be a fucking Edgar Cayce map. But that's a real deep cut. But it's going to erode away. Long Island is a place that's going to be in a lot of danger, I think, in the coming centuries. I think about that all the time. Like, we're not near the beach at all, so we're good here. But we're near the James River, which if it flooded, I think would get pretty hairy, but not probably near us. But we talk a lot about moving to New England, which is what I think we'll ultimately end up doing. Specifically, I don't want to live in Connecticut or Rhode Island, really. But New Hampshire or Maine, maybe Vermont, somewhere in there. There. Go be a Green Mountain boy, like Ethan Allen.
What do you think, Brad? Have we done?
Yeah, I'm very satisfied. It's got to learn a lot. Very interesting hearing about you guys' time on like the shore and all that kind of stuff, and Colin's experience living in LA. Yeah, it's really fascinating. So thank you for indulging me. I think it's like a nice venting process also, just this frustration coming out around all this stuff for me, like Colin was pointing out. So yeah, it's good to talk about it.
I have this, it's again, like just with this whole thing, I have this, like Kevin Smith posted something, and I know he wasn't doing this in a facetious way or he wasn't doing this in an underhanded way at all, but he posted a thing about how grateful he was that his house didn't burn down, basically. And it got super close, and he showed the footage from the night before, and you saw the glow at the top of the mountain. Like the fire was close. But I was just like, is that in bad taste to do that for the people that did lose their homes? Like that's where I'm at a point of ultra sensitivity with all this kind of stuff.
You know, I think it might annoy people just because he's a celebrity,
right? And again, I don't think he doesn't seem like a mean-spirited guy at all, you know. And I'm not making an example out of him specifically, but you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm super sensitive to, like, I don't know. I think social media makes it really hard because it's a lot of people from a lot of walks of life, from a lot of different places, talking about a lot of different things. So it's like, how can you calibrate all that? It's impossible.
Yeah, you can't.
You know, but you know, it was like, you know what it was like? Did I talk about this on a show? I worked with this girl, and I had a kind of an axe to grind with this woman anyway. I didn't like her anyway. She was really snotty, but there were, what happened in LA? I guess it was a matter of like 5 or 6 months ago, right? There was like bad flooding down there, right? Like everything.
Yeah, I think so. Something
they got like too much rain, and it was unexpected, and everybody's shit was flooding. And she posted a thing on LinkedIn about how she, and now the flood never hit wherever she was, her home or her apartment, but it was an opportunity that she took to take a picture of her Emmys, and she put them up on this high shelf and was like, oh, I'm saving my Emmys in case the water comes. And I was like, that is the fucking shit. Like, that's just disgusting. Because that was just taking an opportunity to brag about your Emmys while people are like losing their homes to these floods or whatever. And it was just like this thing of like, maybe she wasn't even being shitty about it, but you know what I mean? It's like, should we be celebrating things or sharing pictures of our dog?
That's just like a tone deaf thing to do. It's like those celebrities singing during COVID. It's like, what are you guys fucking doing right now? Singing Imagine. It's like, what are you doing?
Or just wait, maybe just a little more sensitivity, like wait 24 hours.
Yeah.
Or something. You know, I don't know if it's just
post.
Me.
Just don't post.
Just don't post.
Just don't do it.
Just don't post.
Just don't do it.
It would definitely drive me less crazy if you just didn't post. Yeah. You know, I don't know. It's like all over my radar lately. It's like really driving me nuts. But again, I'm like asking for the impossible. I get it. And I think a lot of it's me being like overly sensitive. You know, like emotions, this isn't a time for this. Like this is a time to think about the people who are suffering type of thing.
Yeah. Emotions are high. I get it.
Yeah.
From everyone right now. The Kevin Smith thing, I didn't see the tweet or the photo or anything. It's like, he was probably just like so relieved, like you were saying, I imagine. I don't think it was probably a bragging thing, but like you're going through that experience yourself. Like I could easily imagine myself just being like, holy shit, I'm really stoked my house didn't burn down.
Yeah, the relief.
Here's some photos of me going through the same thing he did.
The utter relief. And you know what? I think his thing might have been an appreciation for the firefighters too, specifically. Yeah. So it was definitely not a thing to be purposely shitty, but it was just like, oh man, I don't know.
But yeah, I guess, you know, if you're going to do that kind of stuff, you just got to be aware that some people are going to take it the wrong way. And you got to just be okay with that or whatever, deal with it.
The awareness is well said. I think that's the whole thing. All right, you guys, I'm going to back cleanup today. We are 4 people. So the comment out there that I back cleanup with 3 people, I get it. I'm a baseball guy. This is my analogy.
This is your wheelhouse.
It's the only sport I know. Like, give me a break. I wanted to talk today, you guys, as I emailed, about domestic squabbles. The fighting you do with the people you live with, past, present, hopefully not future. And I've been thinking about this because I've been living with the same person for 23 years and we've known each other almost 30. So we kind of lived together part-time even longer than these past 23 years at our various apartments in LA and Connecticut and New York and Philly. So Helene and I have been living under the same roof for a long time. And it just dawns on me, you know, I said this before because we've done a roommate topic. And I never really liked having roommates, although I love living with my family. I don't think I'm the easiest person to live with. But what made me think of this specifically is that Helene and I have this dynamic where, first of all, we do this thing, which I've talked about before, where we jump out at each other and scare the shit out of each other at random times, which is definitely going to be my undoing. Like I could go out this way. Like this could, because Helene's she's a little younger, she's a lot healthier than me. And this could give me a heart attack. It doesn't mean I'm going to stop doing it. In fact, I keep escalating it. But we do this thing where we scare each other at random times, which I think is fun. And the other thing I do is I do little things around the house where Helene's very interior decorating sort of minded. Like she's very good at it. I can't hold a torch to her interior decorating as far as colors and layout and furniture and the way a room should be arranged. But I do it anyway, just to see how long it's going to take for her to put something back. This could be like taking a knickknack and putting it on a different shelf, or like moving a couch. Like I'll just do random things. And it usually like in no frames, like she has it moved back and she doesn't say anything. So I just keep doing it over and over again. And she just keeps moving it back. And then we do this thing with each other, right? So I was just thinking about like what, besides those two things that we do with each other, what are my traits that annoy her? What are her traits that annoy me? And I was like, you know what? She doesn't really do that much that annoys me. Not really. The only thing I would complain about with Helene as far as like domestic squabbles or things where we come to loggerheads is that when she is cooking or doing a DIY project around the house or painting in her studio or whatever, she is very much the artist that it looks like the Tasmanian devil came through. You know what I mean? Like she's going to clean it up. She's not going to leave it that way. But while she's in the doing, it's a fucking mess. And I am very orderly as I go. That's why it takes me forever to do everything, because I'm very systematic and everything has to be put away and everything has to be just right. But she is like the typical artist in that she just throws that to the winds and just creates, and then she cleans up later. And that's really my only bone to pick with Helene. I think she's always on me. I don't know. I mean, I'm much harder to live with. God damn it. But she's on me for using too many paper towels. She doesn't like my paper towel usage. I'm very liberal with paper towels. You know what I mean? There's a cleanup or a spill, or if I feel like I'm just gonna, it's more important to have the house clean. It doesn't matter if I have to use excess paper towels. It's just like, it really bothers her. Like from a conservational type of thing. She's very green minded person. That's cool. You know, and I just got to thinking like, all right, I guess we're doing all right though. If we have that little bone to pick with each other, that little axe to grind, it's like one thing for each other. That's not too bad. We're doing okay, type of thing. The other part of it was that the family dynamic is going to change because my oldest is leaving for college this year. Later in the year, we got like another 7 or 8 months, but she's leaving. And I think about my son and my daughter together because they're 4 years apart in school, 3.5 years apart, but they're very close. Like they're not, my son looks up to my daughter a lot. And I think they're not the type of kids that are like spend every waking minute together, but they're also the type of siblings that just don't fight, which I can't relate to because I was like tooth and nail with my sister growing up. So I'm just wondering about them living under the same roof and what's the dynamic that got them to get along so well all these years, and how is it going to change when she leaves? Especially, she's going to be far away. She's going to either South Carolina or Georgia. She's undecided.
Georgia.
So, you know what I mean? So I was just thinking about this whole dynamic, especially with the two of us, but also the four of us living under the same roof. And, what are those things that we have beefs about? With the kids, I have all kinds of problems with the kids because they just like, they grow up very much the way Helene reminds me I grew up, where my mom did everything for us. Like I never washed a dish. I never made a meal. I never did laundry. Like my mom just didn't expect that of me, growing up. And my kids grow up the same way.
Italian mom, right?
Yeah, totally doting.
Italian mom.
Yep, just totally like everything's done for you. And Helene grew up a lot different than that. You know what I mean? Like she did help out with chores. She did help her mom clean the house and that sort of thing. So it got me to think, all right, what about my friends? You know what I mean? What about my friends with their significant others or their spouses or growing up with their parents under the same roof? What were the things? What were the beefs? What were the domestic squabbles, either now or then? What did you do wrong? What did they do wrong? What bothered you about those people? What did you do that bothered them? That sort of thing. Brad, I'm going to go to you first. When I talk about domestic squabbles, kind of like getting into it with the people you live under the same roof with. What do you think?
Yeah. So I have one sibling, my brother, and he's 2 years older than me. And we're very close. But growing up, our house was much smaller than it is now. It was only a 2-bedroom at that time. So me and my brother shared a room until we were I was about 12 or 13, I would say, or something like that. And he was, 14, 15.
Okay.
And I would say when my brother became a teenager, he was just more grumpy. I guess like the quintessential teenager. I was never as bad as him, according to my parents, not even close. He was much more angry and stuff like that. We would fight occasionally about stuff. We never got to like blows though. Like I've had a lot of friends, like brothers, who would like hit each other in the face and stuff like that. That never happened to us. We never hit each other in the face ever once. Maybe we tried, but it never happened. So I was very happy about that. Well, we just fight about a bunch of dumb shit, like using each other's skateboards or something like that, or something, something stupid, or like even as kids, like toys and stuff like that. Video games, brothers just fight over dumb shit, or siblings in general when they're very close in age.
Yeah.
So a lot of that, but once he kind of hit like 18, I would say, I don't think we ever have had a fight since. And so I don't know. It's really weird. Just, I don't know, crazy teenager stuff. What are you going to do?
Is he still under the same roof with you now? Is he?
No. He lives in Franklin, Mississippi, or Tennessee, which is like right outside Nashville. He lives out there now. Yeah, he just moved out there a couple of months ago for work. So, because he's an endodontist now, so he lives out there. But
that's awesome.
Yeah, it's great. So with that, my brother, yeah, not too bad. We had it pretty good compared to most friends I knew who had brothers growing up. They would fight a lot more than we did, so that was surprising. It's like with my parents, it's weird. Like I get along so well with them. Like they all have like small annoyances. Like my dad is incredibly slow at anything he does. Anything. It'll just take a long time for him to he's very good at stuff. Like when he does something though, like if he'll build something, he'll just take a long time to do, but he's super good. Or just walking somewhere, he walks really slow. It just kind of takes his time to do anything like that. And I'm much more like my mom, who is much more fast and attentive to all that kind of stuff. So it's just like minor nitpick things like that, dealing with that stuff. It's like not a big deal at all in the grand scheme of things. I'm literally nitpicking to think of stuff with them.
Are your parents both from Southern California?
Yeah. My parents are both here. My dad lived in Brazil when he was younger though too, for a little bit. My grandparents are missionaries, so he lived there for a little while.
Oh, that's awesome.
Like his junior high and elementary school, he lived there. Then like some of Hawaii when he was younger as well. But they're from here. They're from like the kind of like the Long Beach area.
Okay.
That's where they both grew up. So yeah, they're both pretty local in that sense. I'm trying to think. My mom, my mom is just funny because she's like, we need to do stuff. We need to get this kind of stuff done. She just doesn't do any of it. She just sits on the couch or some shit, like classic mom complaining to get stuff done, but won't do anything about it. Stuff like that. So it's just like, okay. And girlfriend, it's the most like annoying things is like, she won't change the toilet paper roll or something like that. Like I always find myself doing that.
That's not too bad.
She won't take out the trash. I'm like, man. Well, most women I know don't really deal with the trash kind of stuff like that. It always feels like the dudes have to do it.
Yeah, what is that?
I don't know what that deal is. Like, Colin, do you take it all the trash, or does Micah do it too?
Yeah, she'll take it out to the garage once in a blue moon, but not really. No.
Yeah,
right.
And I take
same thing with you, Dustin.
She does take the empty ones back to the house often.
Oh, okay.
What
about you, Dustin?
She's out there
Do
first.
you do all the trash?
For the most part, I think it's like Colin and Micah, where every once in a while, Holly will. And it's funny because it's one of those unsaid things, but like every once in a while, I'll be in the middle of like cooking something. I go to the trash. It's totally full. And I'm like, am I the only person that can take this out? Sometimes when my parents were staying here, that would happen too. And I'm like, I understand it's my job, but like just every once in a while, it's full. It's changing, but it's okay. It is my job.
Yeah. And I don't know. It's like always just defaults to the dude. I don't know why. It seems like that with everyone I know. But yeah, in terms of like other stuff, maybe just like you didn't want your dishes are out for too long or something like that. Like just do the dish or something like that. So it's all been pretty minor for the most sense.
Yeah, that's good.
For
You're
me,
lucky.
I'm very lucky. And I realize that. For me, I'm trying to think of stuff like I've annoyed people with. And I'm just like, maybe I'm just too like fucking loud laughing at something like that when I'm playing games with like all my friends, like the boys just fucking laughing and not being aware of that kind of stuff. So I'm sure I do plenty of dumb stuff they could tell you as well. But off the top of my head, everything is pretty minor so far, I guess.
You seem like an easy guy to get along with.
Yeah, I guess so,
just
because my parents were kind of like that as well. Like they said, I don't know, my parents didn't let us fuck around too much, but they weren't like very strict.
Okay.
I never felt like my parents were overly strict at all. They kind of somehow just worked it into us. Like we weren't disruptive kids. We weren't like troublemakers. We were not very loud kids, I would say. We're not like a super loud family. You know, some families are really loud and it's totally fine.
Oh, yes.
Just people screaming. Like I've known plenty of people like that, but we're just not really that kind of family right now. Or we never were.
Yeah.
My brother's kids are loud though. I'll say that. Those little bastards.
How many kids does he have?
He has 3.
No way.
Yeah, he has an 8-year-old, a 6-year-old, and a 3-year-old.
Wow.
So yeah.
And they just now freshly moved away. Pretty far away.
Yeah, they've moved. Well, yeah, he lived out kind of near Riverside earlier when they had their first one.
Okay.
Then he moved to Minnesota for school. He was a dentist before. Then he went to more school to be an endodontist. Okay. Yeah. So he did that. Now they just moved to Franklin in Tennessee for like work.
Wow.
So that's where they're at now.
Those kids had you playing Sonic over break.
They did. Yeah, they like Sonic. They like Sonic. Yeah, they like Sonic, man. I went to the movie with them and saw it and everything like that.
Oh, the movie. That's
There's something, I got to be honest. Something about Sonic 3 looks a little anime. Looks a little over the top.
Anime. Yeah, there's something about anime. There's like a Dragon Ball Z fight in there.
No.
Yeah, it's like Dragon Ball.
Big budget.
Yeah, it's just
Dragon
like,
Ball
what's
Z
going
fight. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's Japan in there. Dustin, I know you love that place.
In Japan.
Japan's in there. Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
I forgot about the movie. I forgot about the movies because I'm like, how do kids get turned on to Sonic anymore? Then I remember.
The movies,
the feature
man.
films. Yeah.
Yeah, it's totally the movies. That whole generation. Yeah. So yes, I did have to play Sonic with them. I was like, Mario's better the whole time.
Yeah.
I was telling them that. They know that Uncle Brad thinks Mario's the best.
You got to start.
But they like Mario too, so it's all good.
Like, all right, that's good. Well, being well-rounded is good.
Yeah, of course. But Sonic fans, you got to be careful with them. Hopefully they grow out of it, because
it's a dangerous road.
It's a very dangerous
for so
road.
many reasons.
That is a dangerous road. Dustin, I want to go to you. You said something very important that really resounds. I just feel this in my bones, what you said, which is the sentiment of, am I the only person that lives here? I say that to myself about everything with all 3 people that I live with every day. When it comes to like walking the dog, when it comes to putting a can in the recycle bin.
Dude, you're the dad.
Only person.
You're the dad. The dad does like the most. My dad was the same thing.
They make that
just
very
like
clear
everything
in my house. Also, visions. Can I just say that this whole thing was started also, I didn't want to make it a roommate thing because I already talked about that. But when it comes to the garbage can, there's this vision, this indelible vision just kind of in my head. I lived with 3 roommates. This was my roommate experience in a nutshell. But these specific 3 roommates, we had a little kitchenette. It's a little 3-bedroom apartment, a little kitchenette that attached to the living room. There was a little common area between the kitchen and the living room that was carpeted, but it wasn't quite the kitchen. And for some disgusting reason, that's where we kept the kitchen garbage can, right? On this little carpeted corner of the room. It shouldn't have even been there in the first place. And no one ever changed the garbage. So I swear to God, I'm not exaggerating. The kitchen garbage was stacked like 5 to 6 feet above the rim of the garbage can. People just kept balancing garbage on top of this mound of garbage. And that was like basically just roomed up. Like when somebody gave in and went to change that garbage, it would have taken like several garbage bags and a lot of work.
Wow.
And a lot of stain.
Dude, when I worked as a landscaper and groundskeeper at Northeastern, one of the things I used to have to do was drive around a golf cart and change garbage cans like around the campus. And sometimes you'd find it's like, damn, this sucks. Because it hasn't been changed in like 2 days and it's just like stacked and you have to kind of like
people are trying to balance their bottles and stuff. But Dustin, I just want to take that energy into you taking your turn with this topic, because that's just something I just feel every day from my face. Like, that whole like, no one wants to help me with anything. And like Brad say, maybe that is the dad thing. Maybe that's the husband thing. But I don't know. You take that in any direction you want.
Yeah. Luckily, overall, Holly and I get along really well. I mean, of course, there are like minor quabble. The thing that she does recently that has bothered me the most is when it comes to dishes, which we have a dishwasher, it's probably about a 70-30 split. Holly takes care of it about 70% of the time. And I'll load stuff and sometimes I'll unload it, but she mostly takes care of it. Holly's an avid tea and coffee drinker. So she has cups and she drinks coffee or drinks tea when she's watching something or whatever. And then maybe sometimes she'll eat while watching something. That's fine. No problem with that. And she'll have like a napkin or maybe a tissue. And when she's done with like a coffee cup, she'll take the tissue, sometimes just shove it inside. I don't know if it's like a collector thing or whatever. So when the 30%, when I'm going to do the dishes, I'll click it. And then I'm like, how's this supposed to get out of here? Because you can't, at that point, if it's been an hour or two, maybe it's like stuck to the bottom. I don't want to reach in, and you can't shake it out like, what are you doing? She's like, yeah, you're right. Like, but what, like, what's the need to shove it in the cup?
Condensing. I don't know.
Yeah, what is she, busting tables or something like that? She needs all the space she can get.
She was Dustin a waitress at one point.
Maybe that's it. That could be it.
Maybe that's it.
Oh, yeah.
So there is that. And I mean, I'm far from perfect. Her thing that she always hates that I do, and I know this is not the right way, is that sometimes I'm tired when I get in to go to bed. Even though I was just at home, I'm tired. Wherever I am, just take my pants off and leave them right there. Just at any point in the room, it's fine.
That's awesome.
I really should put them, at a certain point, but often they're just taken off and then left on the ground somewhere. I have a tendency of doing that. So as far as, I guess the two other elements that I have for this is that growing up, I was an only child. So just me, mom and dad got along very well. And to this day, we get along really well. And my dad, bless him, the wisest person I know, the kindest person I know, love him. But the thing that him and I would squabble over was always food related things. So my dad growing up, a family so it had 3 siblings, and obviously his mom and his stepdad. So the first thing is that when my mom would make food, like we would usually almost do like buffet, like go up to the stove, get what you want, and then we would all sit down. My dad would always go last, and he was like the vacuum cleaner. It's just like whatever's left, piling it on. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, dude, I maybe wanted more, but I just was trying to get a sensible amount. But he's like, well, me growing up, you better got what you wanted the first time up, because it probably won't be there when you go back up. And I'm like, but we're not like that. It's just the 3 of us, And then the other thing too is that I think that his mindset growing up was like, if the food is in the house, it's fair game. If it's in a cabinet or whatever, it's fair game. So I remember there was times always where it was like, I'm like coming home from school. For some reason, I have like a single bag of like potato chips. It's like, oh, I'm so excited to eat that. And you get home and you're like, where is it? It's gone. And he's like, oh yeah, I ate that. I'm like, oh, it's my house. I paid for it. He wouldn't always say that, but every once in a while he would. It's like,
that's what he meant.
I think it was the expectation. It's just like, oh, I'm really looking forward to that. And then it's gone.
You got to reserve it, Dustin. You got to be like, this is mine. Can you not eat this?
Right.
You got to let him know.
Right. And I did get better with that as I got older. And I guess there's certain things that's like, I probably could have kept it in my room as like a private stash.
That's like fat kid.
My kids do that
stuff. Yeah.
My kids definitely do that with each other.
Yeah.
Just avoid that whole issue.
So that was one of the main like pain points we had. The other thing that I'll mention is that there was a brief period in my life that I had roommates in this very house where my parents moved to Virginia. They didn't really want to commit to moving there, and I also didn't want to go with them as in my first year of community college. So they kept the house. I stayed here with 2 roommates, and we had a lot of great times together over those. It was almost 2 years. Obviously, though, that was probably where there was much more contention there than with my parents or with Holly. That my one roommate, like, dude, he would get in the shower like before I was supposed to get up. He would be in there 40 minutes sometimes.
Damn.
And we have a hot water tank that maybe lasts 50 minutes. So I would then get in the shower after he was done, and you'd have hot water for maybe the first 2 minutes, and then it's gone. It's like,
dick move,
bro. And singing in the shower that was very loud.
Oh,
it's just like a lack of awareness.
Who was it? Who was it?
You don't know this person.
Them?
You don't
okay.
know. In fact, I haven't talked to him since like he moved out, really. Like maybe a few times after, but we kind of It's not that it crashed and burned at the end, but it was a little weird for reasons I don't really want to get into. But my other roommate, him and I got along really well. Not that I didn't get along with the other guy, but this other guy, we really, really bonded. He was in my wedding even. This isn't really even a squabble, but I really wanted to tell this story regardless. I had a giant TV in my room that was separate from our living room TV because I bought it myself, and I was like, I want to have my own screen to play games on. I don't want to share. So we decided that we were going to watch a movie in my room on my big TV. And so I'm like, cool, meet me in my room. I'm going to go to the bathroom. I go to the bathroom and I go back into my room, and he is bent over, pants down, spreading cheeks to shock me. When I'm like, dude, just wanted to shock me with his butthole.
Gotcha, dude.
Nope. It's like, man,
not good.
He did a lot of wild stuff. Like he tried to moon our one friend. We were on the porch and he was in the people in the kitchen. So he tried to slam his butt against the screen door and just completely like cracked it open with his ass. That wasn't good.
What was this guy with his ass?
Yeah, dude. He was a great guy.
He was a voyeur.
Yeah. Oh, well, we're totally off topic now, but I remember there was like a 2 or 3 day period where he's like, man, I got this hole in my pants. It's really bothering me. At some point, someone's going to say something to me. And I'm just going to grab it. I'm going to rip my pants off. We're like, all right, dude, just do it. Just do it.
I love it.
And one day, like a few days later, he was in the living room having like a heated music debate with someone. And then like, he's like, you know what? And he went and grabbed it and did it. But when he did, he grabbed his underwear.
No.
And completely exposed himself to a friend, and not, not a woman, but a friend, but not necessarily a close enough friend.
Right.
To do that. And what was great is that when I was observing the situation, I wasn't on the end of seeing his dick. I was on the end of seeing the reaction of people that saw his dick.
That's what you want.
But yeah, we had good times. The thing mainly with that, I think, was kind of like what you were saying, Dagan, the energy of like, am I the only one who lives here? Where it's,
oh my God,
we were never college boys that lived totally in filth and squalor. But there were times where it was building up that's like, guys,
so bad.
If we each do our dishes after we're done, we don't have to deal with this mess once every week and a half. Let's just, when you're done with a dish, put it in the dishwasher. That was always the shocking thing. And my one roommate was like, I didn't have a dishwasher growing up, so I'm just not used to putting it in there. I'm like, but dude, if you just put it in there, we don't have to deal with the pain later on.
Mm-hmm.
That's very mature, Dust. I wouldn't have got that.
It's very mature.
Very mature. You know what's funny about the dishwasher though? I will stand there and wash dishes the old-fashioned way for 2 hours. Loading the dishwasher, not so terrible. Unloading the dishwasher, maybe 10 minutes. I can't stand it. I can't. I can't do it. I won't. I just won't. I'd rather wash them by hand. it's just kind of the way it is. I don't know what it. You know what the thing about roommates is? It's like it conditioned me. Like my roommates were so bad to a roommate. I had so many over the course of like 5 to 6 years. They were all terrible to a person. Like it definitely conditioned me to live like my family couldn't have ever been as bad as them. So living with these people is such a relief compared to the friggin' miscreants that I lived with. And probably like I went in a new apartment every year in Philadelphia for like 5 or 6 years. So it was like 5 different sets of 3 or 4 roommates at a time. They were all terrible. Some of them I loved as friends, but just bad roommates. So that was good conditioning for, and I don't think I was a gem to live with either though. You know? But by the time I got to the family, it was like, well, it was going to be, they could be terrible and they're not, but they could be awful. It would have been a relief, you know, because my roommate experiences were so bad. Just terrible. Kyle, what about you? It would have been, the only way we could leg up this topic is if we had you and Mike on at the same time. I think that could have been fun. Actually,
yeah, I think
you guys would throw some shade at each other.
I'm sure we have plenty of it to throw at each other.
You'll get plenty. Yeah, watch Summon Sign.
We have a therapy session on Summon Sign every so often. So I'm old now, and I feel pretty lucky over my life that I don't think I ever had like a horrible roommate ever. And I had many roommates over time. Every year in college, I had different people I lived with here and there, and then. I have interesting, and I've told some of the weird stories, like my freshman college roommate like took like protein that smelled like maple syrup, and it made everything in our room smell like syrup. And I was like, can you get this shit the fuck out of our room? It stinks. And like, I have to like wash all my clothes and everything. But it was like, just innocent sort of things like that. I never really had like a blowout or anything. The one thing I do remember is when I lived in San Francisco, when I first moved there and I lived with all those gay guys, the walls in Northern California houses are typically very thin. As I understand, this is, and there's not a lot of insulation, and as I understand, it's like to keep things kind of breezy. So you really can hear everything. And I shared a wall with this guy, James, who was a really sweet dude. But he played EverQuest every night, and he was like obsessed with EverQuest. And I'm pretty sure it was EverQuest 2. This was
That's not where I thought this was going.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And this was 2000. I moved in 2007, and he lived there to probably 2009. And this was the guy I talk about sometimes that had every episode of Star Trek and The Next Generation on cassette.
Yeah.
Whoa. Nice.
On like VHS. And it was like his whole room, like his whole wall in his room was just the VHSs.
That paints a picture.
And he was a really nice guy, though. He drove like a really nice sports car. I don't remember exactly what it was. He had like a boy, like a 20-something-year-old like Thai boyfriend that like didn't speak English. And that was like 20 or 25 years younger than him. He was married to a woman and had kids at one point.
Oh, wow.
He worked as like some sort of engineer. He was a really nice guy, and we used to play D&D with him. This is the guy I used to play D&D with for like years, and he would play Shogun. He was one of the hugest nerds I ever met in my life. He was great. But he would play EverQuest, and he was in this guild, and they would all call each other on a conference call every night, like literally on old landlines back in the day.
Respect it.
That's
really funny.
They I think that what happened is like they would each take a turn paying the subscription fee for like this literal call-in line, like this analog business call-in line. And this would begin at like 10 at night and go on like all night often.
Every night?
Like most nights. I mean, I would say this dude played EverQuest for 50 hours a week.
That's
like shit. And he worked and shit too. Like,
yeah.
So like, this is like what he did basically. And I remember getting mad at him being like, dude, you have got to shut the fuck up. I was like 22 years old at the time. He was probably in his 40s. And I was like, you've got, like, what is going on? And eventually he moved to a different room where it no longer became a problem, and someone else moved into his room. And then that guy that moved in there, his name was Martin. He was a great guy. I actually saw him randomly in San Francisco many years later. He also had a younger boyfriend who was an illegal immigrant from Mexico who didn't speak any English when I met him. And then when I left that house, he spoke fluent English. It was really weird. You know,
wow.
Like we totally picked it up over like a couple of years.
Dude.
Yeah. Okay. And they were nice guys too. And then so he moved in, and he was quiet. He worked normal jobs, and he was like very active and went to the gym and shit like that. And then, but he would like make breakfast on the weekends. You never came to the house, in the first house I lived in, Dagan. It was beautiful, but it was built into a hill, and it was vertical. And you walked in through the garage basically, and then the house like dropped into a kitchen, into a living room. There was like a drop down bathroom, and then the stairs went down to like the first bedrooms, and then the stairs went down again to like second bedrooms. It was a really weird place, and it looked out over the Golden Gate, like the bay and Golden Gate Bridge. It was fucking sick.
That's beautiful.
I have to have pictures of it somewhere for sure. It was amazing, like in hindsight.
Yeah, it sounds gorgeous.
So, but like noise traveled from top to bottom because it was spread differently. Like where the kitchen was kind of like above a bedroom, which was like above a bedroom. And this dude would just make so much noise. And I basically convinced him to stop cooking breakfast in the morning because he was making too much noise with the pots and pans. And that's about as serious as it ever got. I lived with the same guys at IGN for many years, and that was tranquil. We had our girlfriends moving in and out. Our landlord would often take advantage of that. Our Chinese landlord that lived upstairs, Johnson. And where we would have to change the terms of the lease, and he would charge us like $100 every time we did it a month. So ended up going up like $800, I think, over the time I lived there, just because of that, in addition to the cost increase. Because he was, oh God, he was nice, but he was
legend.
Johnson is a legendary figure. But we also ran kind of funny from that apartment for like a year and a half, and he was just living upstairs the entire time. I'm sure he was thrilled about that. So, so that place was pretty peaceful. And then I lived with, before Micah, 2 other girlfriends, and we had problems, but it was not domestic issues, like pretty easy to live with. Micah and I are very different people in some senses. And I think we've just come to a series of understandings about quirks and things people do and the way people are, and I think it goes both ways. And I'm a pretty not a risk averse, an argument averse, conflict averse person. And I was thinking about where this comes from, and I don't want to like throw our mom under the bus or anything like that, but I will. Is when my mom left my dad, she was in this relationship for a really long time with this guy, Andy. I lived with them for a few years, and it was not a good relationship. And it was a deeply abusive relationship, and lots of arguing and fighting. And it scared me, and it hurt me, and I hated being around it. And I always and I think something deeply inside me where I'm like, I'm not getting anywhere within a fucking magnitude order of that. So I don't raise my voice really. Like I used to get really annoyed actually when an ex, when we would argue, and she'd be like, you just yelled at me or you yelled at me about this. And I'm like, I didn't yell at you about anything. Like you and I both know I might have said some mean shit to you or something like that, which is, neither here nor there in our conversation, but I certainly didn't yell at you, and scream. Like, that's just not me. But I know that I'm annoying in some ways, like to live with. I don't think I'm idiosyncratic. Like I'm just weird, I don't think I'm necessarily like annoying. I just kind of want my space, do my thing, kind of go about my business. And I try to be quiet, and I try to be clean, and I try to be considerate of all the rest. But I know that like some of the things I do annoy Micah, and I appreciate that she looks beyond that, because some of the things she does annoys me too, And so that's just the nature of living and almost getting over it and actually adapting in some sense, sometimes positive, sometimes negative. Like Micah is definitely like much messier than I am. And I think I've kind of more adopted that. Like I've been molded by it now, it's not
you
like,
mean you're less anal with just you could throw caution to the winds a little bit and be a little messier yourself?
Yeah, it's like I'm still the same where it's like I don't want food left out. I don't want dishes in the sink. Like I don't want that kind of stuff. But like there's like a clutter to my life now that never existed before, which is really totally, my house looked like empty basically at one point because like I was just, everything was put away and clean, and things aren't quite like that anymore.
I see what you mean.
But it's like that's more her pace and her speed, and I'm willing to adapt to that because she's adapted to a number of my idiosyncratic things and weird things, and she's patient with a bunch of things that probably annoy her. When I blast my fucking music when I work out, or when I'm playing the drums, or like doing these things, it's like I'm sure that's really fucking annoying. And so, but she puts on a smile and it doesn't. So it's like, yeah. So in some sense, you like kind of find your middle ground. I also know that Michael likes to fuck with me intentionally a lot. And I have to kind of differentiate between those things.
I love that.
And we went into it on our recent therapy session on Summon Sign about the shower poof in the garbage. So I find that our relationship, like as, she's my wife, so we're married to each other now, and we're going to be together, presumably for the rest of our lives. So it's like, I find that we have a pretty peaceful coexistence, in my opinion. I sometimes wonder if she's being not too patient with me, because I'm not that annoying, but too patient in me, like just doing whatever I want in terms of like, I'm going to play a game now. I'm going to watch this sport now. I'm going to watch this TV show. I'm going to go do this thing now. Now I'm going to go work outside. I kind of just go about my business, and we spend an enormous amount of time together because we're together all the time. But she kind of just lets me do whatever I want. And I wonder if maybe she would want, if it was up to her, maybe a little more, not control, because that has like a bad connotation, but like a little bit more input.
Yeah, no, I know what you mean.
Because the way I look at our lives is like, we wake up and go about our business and like go about our days. We're often interacting and doing things. Sometimes we go out and do something if we have to shop or go somewhere, but like we really kind of reunite, for dinner, and then kind of are together for the evening. So it's like, if it was up to her, would it be a little different than that or whatever? I don't know.
That's a nice rhythm.
But yeah, I'm typically averse to conflict. I don't like it. I've had generally good roommates. Actually, in that house in San Francisco, we did have a guy there. So there was gay James, which is the James I was talking to you about. We had a straight James that lived there for a while too. He moved out pretty early on, and then there was bi James who moved in.
I remember you telling me about this.
And I don't remember much of it anymore, but he was like a dickhead. He had like no job the entire time he worked there or lived there or whatever, which is fine. It's like during the financial crisis, so it's like. But he had some sort of interaction with my girlfriend at the time. It wasn't like a sexual interaction or some inappropriate thing or whatever. It was just like he said something to her where I did say like, I'm going to knock you the fuck out if you ever talk to her like that again.
Oh, wow.
Which was very unusual for me to say to someone ever. And we haven't talked to that girl in forever, so I'm not going to ask her if she remembers, but it was like, what did he say that I had that reaction to him?
Yeah, I wonder what it was.
And then he moved out. Like he did something that was like not cool, but he was like kind of an irrelevance. There was also a person living in that house for a while that basically lived in a large walk-in closet.
It sounds so sad.
There was a bathroom that had a door off of it that led to a closet that led to outside. There was like another door, and they just turned that into an apartment. And someone was probably paying like $700 a month to live in it or something.
Yeah.
I'm sure.
So there was that guy too. He worked at Starbucks. I remember. I don't remember his name though. I never saw him. It's very similar to the Russian guy that lived at Johnson's place. He lived in the garage basically in like some sort of illegal in-law, and he lived there before I moved in. And then 8 years later or whatever, when I moved out, he was still there. And I have no idea what the fuck that guy was doing with his life.
That's hilarious.
No idea.
That's crazy.
I don't even know what his name was because he told me his name once. I'm like, I don't know what you just said. So that's why we started calling him the Russian guy, or we called him the Russian.
Right.
Like, oh, did you see the Russian? I ran into the Russian
villain. Yeah.
He would always wear a leather jacket.
Okay.
Would love it.
That's
Very
funny.
San Fran. I feel you, Kyle. I think if Helene was on the show right now, she'd definitely be spilling the beans on all the things that annoy her about me. But I think she's just very patient, like more patient than I have the right for her to be. I'll tell you the key to domestic bliss, though. Brad reminded me of this earlier, which I had a question for Brad about this, but just with a spouse, with a significant other, especially a husband to a wife, just don't be handy, because there could be no expectation for me to do anything around the house. And if I do anything, it's celebrated. I changed a light switch last week or 2 weeks ago, not a switch plate. I had to go in and rewire something. Like I had to.
That's fucking crazy. I would never do that.
I had to shut the power
Turn the
off.
power off.
That's crazy. I would
Yeah.
never, ever do that.
I felt like after I was done, I got such kudos, and I also felt a little bit like, I guess I'm ready to build that house. Like, let's go. Like, what else is there to do?
Let's
Like,
take it easy. Yo, Bob
settle
Vila,
down.
take it easy.
You know what I mean? I was so nervous. I had the voltmeter out, like making sure the electricity was off. Like I turned power off to the entire house. Of course it was off.
Dustin, do you know who
That's
Bob
how
Vila
tense
is?
No.
Oh, dude.
Jeez, that's crazy, man. You don't
That's the
know
guy.
you don't know the show This Old House.
Oh, we had a conversation about this because Holly was watching it at some point.
Did you ever watch Home Improvement? Oh, you didn't have a TV as a kid.
Home Improvement.
no,
dude.
I would-
Home Improvement.
I've seen Home Improvement.
But like,
So
it was
good.
kind of like supposed to be like him, but then he would be on the show and he hated Tim Allen. Like
Yeah, that was awesome.
that was like it was
Oh,
the
he
whole
was
thing was
on
like
the show?
he would like be on the show every once in a while, like Bob Vila,
I didn't
and
know
he would
that.
be like he would be like it would basically just be like him being almost doing a Blanche from Golden Girls, like flat effect, you know, like judging you the entire time. Really good shit. That show is so funny.
Yeah, I love Home
I feel like they based Tim Allen's assistant. What was his name?
Al.
Like, I feel like they based him on Bob
Right.
Vila.
Yeah, definitely visually. And they would sometimes be in the same scene and wearing the same thing and stuff like that. Like he would come on like once a season or something like that.
It was a good bit.
Yeah.
He might be from Pittsburgh, Dust. I'm not sure if he's from Pittsburgh, Bob Vila, but I want to say it. I don't know why I think that.
I was reading something about him, Dagan, where like, wasn't there a big thing with him where he was like the first PBS star that was basically like, fuck this, I want money, and left, right? And
I didn't even know that.
I think, and then like someone else hosted it, but this was in like the late 80s, early 90s. And that's when he started doing like a different show on like network TV, and then like started doing all the commercials and making like a shit ton of money because he was kind of like bound to a different contract with them. So it's interesting.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Because somebody did take over this old house, but I didn't know that was the reason.
Yeah.
Then he had all his endorsements with Lowe's or whoever he did this shit for.
I watched one of the YouTube rabbit holes I've fallen down is like old episodes of the 80s, This Old House. It's really good. Yeah.
I have no idea. But circling back to Brad, because Brad said his dad was handy. He was good at making things, but his mom seemed like your mom didn't put the pressure on your dad, which is an interesting dynamic.
No, she did.
Oh, she's
like, you gotta get this done. We need to get this done. She still does that. Yeah.
You gotta love the we. Like how we need to get this done.
Oh, the we.
Yeah.
My mother calls me her wife. Like when we talk about like certain things, because she is the man of that. She is definitely the man of the relationship. Like, there's no doubt about it.
I hear that. Yeah. I want to change it though. I'm working on changing it. It's late in life, but it's not, maybe hopefully it's not too late. It's not too late.
It's never too late.
It's not too late, my friend.
It's just practice and experience.
It feels good to be able to do that stuff.
Yeah.
And it's so limiting to be, to be beholden to somebody to come do, a handyman or a contractor. It's like, I have this feeling lately of like, how hard can this be? The answer is usually super hard.
Very hard.
I just don't
often.
It's so hard to do, but it did feel good. I'm going to build on that light switch thing. I'm just going to
when you do something, Dagan, you got to do the also. You got to do that every time. Every time. I
know Helene calls it taking out my tool belt. It could be the littlest project, like putting hardware on a drawer or something. It's like, that's a big deal for me.
That's dad. That's what, when you're a dad, man, that's what you got to do.
I like it. I'm just going to keep holding on to like your dad. This like the quality over quantity thing. It's like, it's going to be done. It's going to be done right. It's going to take me a while. It's going to take me 3 times longer than anybody else.
Yeah.
But I feel that. I get it, because I never wanted, and the whole energy behind that is I never want to do it again because I hate doing it.
Right. Yeah.
Right. So it's like, I'm doing this once, this light switch will never have to be touched by me as long as I own this house again.
You think that when things break, you're back to it. I have a question though for you two. Growing up, brothers, I know your age gap's like what, 10 years, right?
Yeah, almost 11.
Almost 11. Yeah.
Did you guys ever fight about stuff really?
No.
Never.
Yeah.
Never.
You guys,
Nope.
I never really fought. As a kid, I never fought with any of my siblings.
Yeah. No, you never did. Okay. You were far enough in age. I never fought with our middle sister, our sister Allie, but me and Dana, our older sister, fought a lot. Like we're a year and a half apart.
Yeah.
And mostly that was really on me because I just teased the shit out of her to the point of like her getting so aggravated to the point of violence.
Mm-hmm.
But I asked for it 100%. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then it'd be the thing of like, yeah, she would just start hitting me. And it was like, yeah, but I asked for it and I knew, so I would just laugh, And then when she got older, it started to hurt because she was strong and she was athletic, But that didn't stop me,
Right.
Poor Dana. But yeah, Colin and I were way too far. Like, and with me being born and then having 2 sisters, like just the fact that almost 11 years on, I had a brother was just like, my God, this is bliss. This is amazing. I can't believe I'm getting this opportunity. You think it's over at 11 years old. You're like, I guess this is the family, And then the parents are like, nope, there's another. You're 10, and your parents are like, no, we're having a kid, and it's a boy. It's like, what? It's like life. It was like life starting over again. It was amazing. It was like, what? It's like euphoria.
I was probably annoying as fuck to everyone else, but I never got it.
I just remember you being cute. That's it. Like it was just like having somebody cute around.
Hell yeah.
I don't remember you annoying anybody.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I was. Everyone was very nice to me. What I remember, like that's why I have such an old soul. I think is because I'm like into things that I shouldn't be into and things that I wasn't quite old enough for and stuff. And I think a lot of that was just being kind of indoctrinated by people older than me that didn't really know how to deal with a little kid in some sense. Not because they're stupid, but because it was so distant at that point, you know? So it's like now we're all kind of like teenagers. And so you're just going to kind of be a teenager, even though you're 5, you know? And that was literally kind of the way it was, listening to and watching things and being around things that I should not have been seeing and doing and being around. And it was fun, you know, but I think that's kind of impressed on me an older soul than I would have otherwise had.
I'll tell you my physical image memory of little Colin from like 0 years old to 7, I'll say. For some reason, I have this indelible image of you. You guys know like the orange inflatable water wings? We call them swimmies that kids put around their upper arms for the pool. I just see Colin in this very specific pair of swim trunks. Little baby beer belly hanging out with the water wings 24 hours a day. Eating dinner at the table, walking around the outside, watching TV. Like for some reason you always have going to bed, like reading a bedtime story. You always seem to have the water wings on. And you did have the water wings on throughout the course of the day because mom and dad were so paranoid about you falling in the pool before you really learned how to swim, which you learned at so at a young age. But for some reason, I can't think of little Colin without those giant orange water wings on each.
That's awesome.
Arm. Like that's just I think because there's this one picture of you with your little toothy smile and your little summer get up with the water wings. That's just like, that's Colin. That's the Colin. That's Colin. That's 80s Colin.
That was before life broke me. And everything was new and serene. Do you know the new disputed lore in the family is mom insisting that she taught us how to swim?
Oh, that's insanity.
And like, it's like, no, mom, you definitely didn't. Dad taught us how to swim.
Insanity. Mom never went in the pool.
Yeah, mom would never, ever go in the pool. I remember what I remember the rule being was that when dad was on a tour, I had to wear like swimmies. And then when dad was home, I could just kind of do whatever I wanted.
Okay.
And he would often come into the pool. And I did learn how to swim at a very young age.
You did.
But that's so funny. Like, cause it's like, mom, you definitely didn't teach me how to swim. Like there was no way. I don't remember you ever being in the pool.
Mom's never been in the pool. For all I know right now at 51 years old, mom does not know how to swim because I've never seen her in a body of water. I've never seen her in a body of water ever. Like that, you know what I mean? Funny. Like that's such false history. They did leave your swimmies on when you sat in the high chair to eat lunch and dinner. And I think that was like ridiculous. Right. Because now you're like a T-Rex. You can't even reach your chicken nuggets. It's like, you could take them off. He's not going to fall in the pool right now.
Dude, that'd be your robot master, Colin. Swimmies man.
Swimmy man,
yeah. Sick.
Well, I'm satisfied. I really should have had Micah on this one, but maybe we'll do a part 2.
No, it's okay. Yeah, I'm sure she'll have a lot of interesting things to say.
She would definitely.
Oh, yeah.
She wouldn't hold back.
Oh, no, she knows me more than that. Like I make fun of her because I'm like, stop studying me. That's what I say to her all the time. Like, stop studying me. Because she'd be like, what are you doing with that? But this is like her, like knowing what to annoy. Like, I'll just take a bagel and she'll be like, what are you doing with that bagel? You know, like little things like that. And then she'll watch me like cut it and tell me I'm cutting it wrong. And like, she just loves busting my balls, man. Like,
yeah,
the ball busting is so important.
It is. I love it too. She's authentically like by a mile the funniest like woman I've ever like had dated or been with. You know, like it's
also
it's hysterical.
One of the most insane women I know. Since I'm on stuff with her every week.
Yeah, she's
I'm like,
she's unhinged.
Real.
Yeah, she's
definitely a wild card.
She's funny. I mean, she's like truly funny, and she knows how to ham it up, and which is I think really important in the comedy. Good. So she gets it, and she's just a strange cat, dude. You know, like. That's why I love her, though. You know, we're very 2 peas in a pod in a lot of different ways. As we said before, like we always say, like we share one single brain cell. So yeah, it works out. We're different, but we're in a lot of ways the same. So
yeah, any 2 people are different. That's so important, though. Like, and Dustin was saying earlier with Holly too. Like, if you could just those differences, because Helene and I are a lot different. You know. I think she's a lot better than me in most ways, but so I'm lucky in a lot of ways. But if you could just find the comedy, those little differences and the things that bug you and stuff like that's everything. Like you got to be able to laugh at them, laugh at yourself, laugh at the kids, laugh at the situation. It's not always easy, but if you could just find a way to do that, I think, you know what I mean? Like if I could make Helene laugh, I've said this before, if I can make Helene laugh or the kids or whatever, I know it's going to be okay. It's frustrating when I can't. I like the thought of being funny probably more than I am funny.
Mm-hmm.
So that's frustrating. But you got to find the comedy, man. So it's so important. I always say like is this a terrible thing to say, or does this speak to you guys? Mm-hmm. Like I'm like I don't get me wrong, I love being married. I've been married for going on 23 years. I don't plan on it changing. Knock wood. But I'll never get married again. Like if Helene left tomorrow, I wouldn't get married again. Mm. Is that a weird way to feel?
No.
No, I don't think so.
I don't think I would either. So
I'm just like, that's it. One and done. I would never do it again. And it's not because I don't like it. You know what I mean? It's just like, I just feel like it's one experience. Like it's a weird way to feel. And who knows? Maybe I'm talking out of my ass. Maybe I would. Hopefully I'm never put in that situation.
Right.
But yeah, but I do feel that way. I've always felt that way. Helene will leave tonight. I'll be eating these words by the next episode. And if that happens, listen, you guys, I want to go around and say goodbye. We've come to a close. We did it, guys. We did the 3 topics, 4-person thing, and I think it went pretty well. It was kind of a nice compromise. I mean, if we look at the clock, right, we're coming in right in that in between. Sometimes the 3-person episodes could take 2 hours. 4-person episodes tend to take 4 hours. We're right in the middle of that right now. So maybe, who knows? Maybe this bodes well. Kyle, I'll start with you. It's nice to see you again. It was nice to do a show with you again. It's been a while.
Yeah, good to be here. Thank you for having me. Good job, everyone. Good to see everybody. Happy New Year to everyone. It's getting too late to say that now.
Is it?
No, probably not. I mean, it all depends. Like I don't know what the rule is, but it's the last time I'm going to say it on the show. But
Larry David said 3 days.
Right, exactly. I always think of him in the gym.
3 days.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, good to be here. Thank you. Hope everyone out there is doing well. Obviously, as we said it during the fire topic or the natural disaster topic, I hope everyone in LA and surrounding environs is doing well and hanging in there. It's a terrible situation, and otherwise, I'll be back in the coming weeks for sure. So, thank you.
Thank you, my friend. Dust. We too have that. I mean, I can't believe it's been a half a year since we've done a podcast together. It doesn't. I have to say, I love you. It doesn't feel like that though.
Yeah, that's how you know. You just pick up. Mm-hmm. No problem.
It's like no time passed.
Yeah. But yeah, it was good to be back on with you, Dagan. Good to be with Brad and Colin, of course. I'm trying to think. I don't have any plans for this weekend. Maybe it's another Final Fantasy 14 weekend. Though. So it's 4:00 right now. I expect in about the next hour and a half, potentially Brandon will send me a text that says, "Yo." And that's it. That's all he'll say, because I know he'll know I know what it means. He wants to hang out, drink some icy light mangoes. I don't have a problem with a few mangs on a Friday night. So maybe we'll do that. We'll see. Maybe not. Either way, it was good to be here. And Dagan, we can't wait another 6 months.
No, please. In fact, you know what's funny about this, Dust? I saw you not that much earlier than that.
Too many games.
Too many games. Was it June? Was it June?
Yeah.
So that's crazy. Time flies.
Yeah.
Right? Brad, my friend, it was great seeing you as well.
Yeah. Thank you for having me. It's great to see you as well, Dagan. Of course, love chatting with you. And Dustin, my boy. And Colin, of course. I think I'm going to play a little Dragon Quest today. Dragon Quest 3 HD 2D. Now that I'm done with Like a Dragon, Infinite Wealth, I'm free. Get back to Dragon Quest. Cool. And Colin, I've been thinking about those Robot Masters, so I think it's soon to start time with little Mega Man action, go through those games.
There he is.
Sparkman? I don't know.
Sparkman. Oh my
God,
you have so much work to do. It's great. It's crazy how much work you have to do still.
Yeah, Sparkman's from 3, right?
Okay, good save, Brad. Good save. That was a good save. That's good.
I could see him. I showed Brad some of the new ones, Cutman.
Yeah.
Oh, dude.
Sick.
Classic.
Yeah.
One of my favorite designs. What is going on with Capcom and Mega Man? What is happening?
I think something's happening. I think they're working on something. I don't know yet. I mean, after they announced that Onimusha game last month, it's like, yeah, they're definitely working on some deep cuts. So there's no doubt that they're doing something. I was thinking about you the other day. The new wave of toys is Bubble Man, Wood Man, and Snake Man, I think, which are more in your...
Oh, wow.
Man, those are all really good. Bubble Man, Wood Man, and Snake Man.
2 and 3.
Oh yeah, Snake Man's your favorite, Dagan.
Snake Man is my... Wow, you knew that?
I did know
I'm
that,
flattered that you knew that. He is my fave. Yeah.
Yeah, he's awesome.
2 and 3, I mean, come on.
Yeah, 2 and 3.
Come on,
hard to beat.
I would love for them to do Gemini Man and actually make 2 of them, which would be cool. But
that would be cool.
Yeah.
What?
But
do they have Shadow Man yet?
No, that would be sick.
Okay.
I do have a Shadow Man figure from the 90s on my shelf. But no, I would be my hope that they'll get to all of them eventually. The one thing that bothered me about it is that they made a green Mega Man with the bomb, but they didn't make. But it's like, just make Bomb Man.
Yeah,
like, what are you doing here?
I get that.
You know?
Yeah, just make Bomb Man.
I mean, it's cool, but I don't think we needed it. You know, I bought it anyway. It was $20.
He looks great. Those are great proportions. I like that design specifically. Let me ask you guys a quick question. Sure. Just nerdy while we're on Mega Man. Would you prefer the next entry to be a Mega Man X game, or would you rather it be a Mega Man game?
I would rather a classic game than an X game, but I think it would be cool to go back to X2, so I would definitely take that as well.
Yeah.
But I think what we'll get is like something different entirely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like a Mega Man 8?
Cube.
No, not Mega Man 8, not a Mega Man 8, but like a Mega Man, like we talked about it a little bit at Summon Sign, I think, but just the idea of like doing a game just called Mega Man that's more of a AAA game of some sort. You know, I don't know what it would be, a shooter maybe, or like a third person action shooter or something. It could be
3D.
It could be pretty cool. And I've told you my ideas for what I think they could do, which would be dope. But I mean, dude, I would take Mega Man 11 or no, Mega 11 we have, a Mega Man 12 I guess now 12. In 8-bit would be like always my desire, you know.
I would love that.
But I think they're done with doing that stuff.
You think?
Yeah, 9 and 10 were cool. I think it would be a little conspicuous to go back to that probably at this point.
After 11.
But I would love
9
that.
and 10
after 11 especially, right?
Right, after 11. I forgot about 11. I really like that game.
Yeah, I do too. We've talked about it before. I love the figure skater robot in that. I think it's such a cool idea.
So good.
Yeah.
All right, you guys. I'll have to end with, were you not entertained? Gladiator 2. I haven't seen that yet either, by the way, so I can't weigh in on that.
They waited a while for that one, huh?
They really waited. I saw that when I was living in LA, so 2000.
Just 2000, I think, yeah.
Yeah. Listen. That's our time, my friends. Indulge me with a bit of house cleaning, please. Patreon.com/laststandmedia for early ad-free access. As always, that's how you avoid the FOMOs. Laststandmedia.store has the merch. When Mike is on, I usually check in for a status report on the merch. Maybe Kyle could speak to that. I don't know what's going on now in the new year. The Canadian postal strike is resolved. They
that fucked us up with the shirts, the stand down stuff.
That was an obstacle, huh?
Yeah. Also, I couldn't send Barry his Christmas card. It was a big deal, you know.
That's right. He's in
Ontario.
Ontario.
So
that's right.
So yeah, that's all solved now, and I think as of the 7th, so a few days ago, I think that the USPS is accepting parcels now to Canada again. Okay. So I think that's all solved. And yeah, we'll be selling. I want to do 3 more drops this year. I think we're going to do a couple physical games and some other stuff. But you know, the t-shirts will continue, the sweatshirts will continue, and so on. So yeah, good things coming for sure.
Okay, good. Well, listen, you guys, for Colin, Dustin, and Brad, I've been your host, Dagster Moriarty, saying thank you for joining us today. We appreciate you. We love you. Happy New Year. Please stay safe in Southern California. We're thinking about you guys and girls out down there. Praying for a quick end to the fires. Some normalcy again, for sure. But we're thinking of you. And in the meantime, we'll see you next week. And you could go listen to your second favorite podcast, which is probably either Summon Sign or Sacred Symbols.
Yeah, good.
So in the end, we're punching up. We're defining too. All right, you guys. Thanks again. See you next week. Peace.
Constellation is a product of Last Stand Media and Colin's Last Stand LLC and is proudly recorded in the USA. The show was conceived by and is directed and hosted by me, Colin Moriarty. My co-host is my brother, Dagan Moriarty. The show is produced by Last Stand's executive producer, Dustin Furman. All Last Stand theme music is by Ramon Narvaez, and all of our graphics and logos are by Dagan Moriarty. As you know, all of Last Stand Media's podcasts, including Constellation, are fan-funded on Patreon at patreon.com/laststandmedia. The following names are at the producer level on Patreon, our highest support tier, and we're infinitely grateful for your thoughtful and kind contributions to our independent endeavor.